That don't make you fast. That dude was fast.
He was fast. Hey,
he was fast. He was like dodging attacks and
you
stuff.
You never know, man. He might have been dodging hot oil or something.
He's never had a spark land on him. He dodges all the sparks.
I use my killer instincts to dodge sparks. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Super Agile Bros. You already know what it is. It's your boy, Bradston. You know, we're going to have a great episode. The boys are in the building. The brothers in the building. First, I'm going to introduce the boy himself, Kyle. Kyle, how you doing today?
Oh, it's me, myself. I'm doing great, man. Glad to be here. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Good to have you. I'm excited about this episode, you know, and also, of course, we have the brother himself, Steve, the man.
Hello?
What's happening, Steve? Hello?
Yes. This is Patrick.
What is this? every week. I think we're just gonna cut him and just cut straight to the meat and potatoes.
Just have like a robot voice for me.
I love that, Steve. Just take a clip from another episode.
Maybe I'll do that next week.
Yes, and hello to other Steve out there. You know, we're
other Steve.
Moments like this, just be prepared, man. We might have to call upon you. So
disrespect me right to my face.
Yes, to your face. Everywhere. It'll be on the internet forever. So make sure that disrespect resonates. You know. So So today's gonna be a really cool episode. So if you guys have been following along. Guys and gals, if you've been following along with us, you know that in episode 25, which was 2 episodes ago, we kind of had a special episode. We went through different things that we wanted to watch. And one of those things that we wanted to watch was Arcane. So today we're going to go deep into Arcane. If you don't know about Arcane, super cool Netflix show, about, I guess, League of Legends. And we'll talk all about it, but it's definitely, I'll give my opinion. So I think you should watch it. You can probably guess how I think about it, but we're going to go through it. So this is going to be a spoilerific episode, but in general, for the first section, we're going to try our best not to be spoiler boys. But after that, it's all no holds bar. We're not going to hold back. So let's get ahead and let's go ahead and get it cracking. I want to hear what you guys thought about Arcane. So I guess we'll go around the horn and we'll start with the boy Steve. Steve, tell us about Arcane. How did you like it? Your overall, review. If you want to give it a score, I know you're partial to giving scores, but if you got one, please share it with us, the brother.
No, this is Patrick. Yeah, I can start.
Committed. He's committed.
You see, that's the gag with a second payoff. You see, that's humor. That's comedy.
I'm still waiting for the first payoff.
Them dad jokes. He's prepared.
Yeah.
Got something to tell us?
I'm your father.
Oh.
Your daddy.
So we're super agile father-son.
Yeah, super agile family. We can no longer be the super agile bros.
There's a joke I was saying. Who was I saying? Oh, one of my brother-in-law's brother, who's also the uncle to my niece. Mm-hmm. I was telling my sister that she should adopt him, like her and her husband should adopt him. And he's a grown man. He's in his 30s, about to be 30 or whatever. And they were like, but he's a grown man. I was like, no, you need to adopt him. So my niece will have a brother. She'll just call him Uncle Brother. So
oh no.
Super confused.
I don't like that at all.
But anyway, it has nothing to do with anything. So Steve, what's your review? Your rating?
Arcane was, I thought, much better than it had any right to be. We just finished talking about video game adaptations, and this was not that, for 2 reasons. One, it was good, like Sonic, and 2, it really didn't have anything to do with the video games. It really was, I don't know. I've never played League of Legends. I know that it's not what I would call a story-focused experience. So it isn't like they adapted the plot. It seems like they just kind of jumped into the lore. Anyway, the graphics, like the way the art style is graphics, like it's a game. The art style is very distinct, and it might seem off-putting at first, and sometimes it doesn't look totally great, but I think you really just have to see it in motion. And even in the first episode, you can tell like how detailed and dynamic everything is, how bright the colors are. I think I mentioned in a previous episode how the lighting is just incredible. They do such a good job.
Yes.
And they'll throw in some 2D effects sometimes that just like pop. And maybe they shouldn't pop as much as they do, but they're so good. There's a scene where like this kid gets splashed in the face. Oh no. Yeah. He like gets splashed in the face, or like there's another scene where someone, spits or vomits, and it just looks so good. And we were watching it and I was telling Keisha, I'm like, man, that looked really good. And she's like, he just puked. Like, it's still awesome.
Man, that looks so good. I'm gonna run it back.
Yeah, let me go back and watch that again. But that's just the visual is really good. Storytelling was excellent. I can't really think of a character I didn't like. Yeah, top notch show in general. Not to mention animated shows.
Okay, cool. Sounds like a solid recommend from you on that one. How about you, Kyle? What do you think about it?
Yeah, I have to agree on pretty much all accounts. So yeah, the first thing that hit me was the art style, because I did play League of Legends in college, and more than play the games, I was always just enchanted by the champions. And so they might still do it, I don't know, I haven't seen one in a while, but they would do champion spotlights, and all it would be is a speed painting of like the promotional art for that character. And then, so it'd be like a 16-hour, 24-hour drawing that would go over 15 minutes. And like, just from the very first frame of this animated series, it was so true to the art style of the game, or not even of the game, because I think the game lacks in some ways what the show was able to capture, as far as just like the painterly approach that they take, the way that they handle surfaces and different materials in their paintings, which isn't quote unquote realistic, but so convincing and just like delicious and just
delicious.
Yummy.
So like they were just able to capture it to me like perfectly. I feel like there's games that I've played that I say you could take a screenshot of any moment of this game and it would be an amazing background for your desktop. I feel the exact same way about this show. The writing was great. The voice acting, top notch.
The voice acting. Yeah.
I think I only recognized maybe one or two voices. I'm sure there's people in there that I would recognize their names, but they did a really great job of just capturing the characters, so I didn't get distracted by that too much, which I really appreciate, because a lot of shows, especially on these streaming platforms, reuse and recycle the same actors. And so I'm just like listening. Oh, I know him from that. I know him from that. I know her from this. And it's super distracting. So I appreciated very talented voice actors that didn't pull me out of the story because of who they were. And just, yeah. So if I had to give it a rating, because I know Steve didn't give it a formal rating, art-wise, visual-wise, graphics, as Steve said, I'd give it... Graphics. I give it a 10 out of 5 because...
Okay. Yes, that's correct.
Because it was just, man, next level. The writing I'll give it a 7.5. I think everything was handled greatly, written well, but I have my reasons for why I didn't give that a 10.
Okay.
But overall, I'd watch the show again, so I give it like an 8.5.
Okay. Solid. Yeah, I think for me, I think out of the gate, I'll just give it my rating. I'd probably give it like a 9 to a 9.5. I think for me, I would say that I'm like, I don't give any form of medium a pass. I don't care if you're a video game related media or based on anything. I'm just going to judge you for what you are in that moment. I'm not going to base it off of, oh, that game was great, so I'm going to give you extra points, So, number one, I don't have like a huge history with League of Legends. And I think I mentioned this before, is just like, when I heard that it was a League of Legends show, it kind of actually dissuaded me from watching it. Number one, because the toxicity of League of Legends just made me think like this show is just going to be terrible, and just I don't know. There's something about that, and also like I assume that League of Legends has a lot of lore and stuff because it's like a fantasy based game, but like it just never stood out to me in that way. Like if somebody said, "Oh, I'm going to make a Skyrim series," I might be interested. The Witcher, I knew about how cool the lore was, so that like interested me, but League of Legends didn't. So I guess I went into it kind of like, I had heard that it was good, even before, like I heard from, I think my boy Omni had mentioned it on his YouTube. So I just saw it and I was like, oh, so I didn't have much, pre thoughts about it other than, oh, it might be good. But yeah, I was very surprised. Number one, like you said, the art was incredible. I think at first I was a little taken back by it because I was like, this is weird, because it kind of felt like they had painted on the characters who were 3D and like it didn't change. So I was like, this is weird. It's like they're wearing like makeup, like permanent makeup. But as the show continued, I realized how beautiful it was and how it matched the aesthetic perfectly. And eventually it just felt like I couldn't imagine it any other way. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'd be mad if they tried to change the art style at all. I'd be like, this is terrible. So yeah, definitely with Kyle, I give it a 10 out of 5. It's definitely such a unique way to approach it. But I think, overall, I think it was just hard for me to find any faults in it. I have characters that I didn't like here or there, or moments that were whatever. But also the show surprised me in a lot of ways. And as a person who loves stories and characters and like lore in general, I always say to myself, oh, it's so hard to surprise me. I know where something is coming. Like I'm watching a show now and I'm like, I know exactly what's going to happen. And like this show really surprised me in a lot of ways. So that boosted my rating. And I think I love that they take themselves seriously. You know what I'm saying? Like even in this world where they could possibly tone down the realness, we'll probably get into it a little bit. I just really appreciated like the no holds bar aspect of the show and kind of how they went with it. Not overly violent or crude or anything, but very like real to what they were doing.
Yeah.
So yeah. So
it is a little gory, if anyone's wondering. There's some bloodletting.
Yeah. There's some blood.
Definitely like maybe like it's very high to medium to high, like but not bad, not too crazy.
Like an action movie, pretty much.
An action movie, yeah. So I want us to start talking about the show, get deep. So anybody who's watching, listening, overhearing this show right now, if you don't want to get Arcane spoiled, I recommend you stop now. Stop at this moment. Watch the show. Then come back, because at this point we're not holding back. We're talking about everything that we could possibly go for. So I actually want to
wait. I'll also add, even if you don't mind spoilers, like I know some people who are like, just please don't listen. Just go watch it first. And then
mind them this time for your own best interest.
Because a lot of the show revolves like there's a lot of tense moments.
Yeah,
and if you know what's going to happen, then
that's true.
It's lost.
Yeah. You just don't feel that the moment to moment if you don't go with it in fresh eyes, So yeah, definitely stop if you haven't seen it. So I actually want to start a question with Kyle because, I know that like overall, like the show seems like a pretty unique experience. Like if somebody told me if I didn't know it was a League of Legends show, that I would have never guessed it. You know what I'm saying? Like it just. So where is the like League of Legends tie-in? Like, is this a certain character in here that's League of Legends based? Is there multiple?
I think a lot of them are.
I don't really know.
So there are a handful of them. I don't think all of them are in the game necessarily. Mm-hmm. Some of them definitely are playable characters in League of Legends. So I guess we'll just jump into it. So at the first episode where you're seeing like all the kids and stuff, that from what I remember, there was only one legend who was a child, and it wasn't Powder.
Okay.
I can't remember her name, but she has this stuffed teddy bear. and she might not actually be a child. So the connection doesn't start immediately necessarily because, once Powder grows up, then the direct connection on that account is created. But I'm going to be honest with you. It's been a while since I played League of Legends. I probably should have looked it up, but I don't remember if Vander is a character in there or V. I'm really not certain. Jinx 100% is.
I think Jinx is. I think Vi is. I'm sure. I don't know, but I would be very surprised if Vander was because he dies.
Yeah.
And then
before the events of the game, right?
Yeah. It has to, because, I mean, they're kids. Unless the League of Legends started prior, that wouldn't make much sense.
I don't know. This is probably stuff we should know.
Yeah, I mean, we're taking it from our perspective,
True.
I was like, I could do a lot of research before, but I'm like, hey, let's just talk about it. And, I have the wiki in front of me, so I can do some research while we're talking, but, yeah,
I have an idea. Do you guys want to try to bet or to guess who is a character in the game and who isn't?
I would guess that Jace is, because he has a lot of similarities to, I can't remember his name, but there's an armored guy in League of Legends but I think he has a sword, which the skins kind of make it hard to distinguish whether or not he always has a sword. But he had the same holotech technology-esque style. Hextech, sorry. What did I say? Holotech? What is that from?
I don't know. That's
Holotech.
It's nonsense.
Who
are you?
Forget I ever said that. But so he had a similar aura to his moves and stuff, even though he was dressed like a knight. So it definitely made me think of, I can't remember his name, but Jace reminded me of him. So maybe there's some connection there.
I would have guessed Jace because I'm like, why would you give this man a giant hammer if he's not a playable character?
In the game,
He is a video game character.
Yeah. I would probably guess Jinx, Vi, and Jace, and maybe in the future Echo or something.
I was gonna say Echo.
I could see that happening. Other than that, I feel like Mel, the black girl, I imagine she's in the game, in some capacity. She seems like she'd be involved in the storyline or something, but I couldn't see her being a champion,
Mel, you mean the girl, the politician?
Woman.
Yeah, the black woman who is Jace's love interest, more or less.
Yeah.
So, okay. Yeah, I think I'm looking now, and it looks like Vi definitely is a champion.
Sevica is a champion, I think.
Okay.
Silco's right-hand woman?
Yeah. Oh, really? She's a champion.
She's the brawler, yeah. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. I'm looking at list of champions right now to see if I see the names. But
good luck. How many are there now?
Many.
200 almost,
goodness,
I think.
Great. Is that really? Why are there so many?
They Pokemon now. So,
I thought there was 12. I'm scrolling down here.
Is Caitlyn a champion?
Dude,
oh.
I could not tell you if you would see this list right now.
It's ridiculous. Yeah.
Just Control F, man.
It's completely overwhelming.
Spelling. So yeah, it looks like Caitlyn is. Yeah, Caitlyn is.
Wow. Huh.
Caitlyn is one. Vi does not seem to be one unless she has a different name.
What's her? Doesn't she have a full name? Isn't Vi short for something?
Isn't it Violet?
I think it is.
Real name is Violet. Let's see. I'm gonna search it. And I think Jinx. I think I saw Jinx here.
Mel's mom looked like she could be in the game.
She looked like she was a champion even if she wasn't in the game.
She's the final boss of League of Legends.
Yeah, what about Heimerdinger?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The Furby, that's what
Jinx is a
Furby.
She was mad disrespectful to those characters.
I mean, fair enough.
I was too.
Heimerdinger is a character. I actually thought about it because I was like, he's very made in a way to be a character. What I'm saying?
Right. He looks like he's like an anime when everyone they all look normal except the one character with pink hair. You're like, oh, main character.
Right. Exactly. It's like, you are a main character. You're Jason Derulo. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to keep looking. So, okay. So, I guess So what did you guys think about the way that they started the series? With like starting, cause to me, like they started with the kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yes, they're important characters. I don't know. What do you guys think about the ways that they approach the story in general? Like,
You mean a timeline?
just in general. I mean, we don't have to even start with that. Just what do you guys think about the story? You know, what is your take on like how they approached it? They're, you know, just in general. I'd like to hear y'all's thought about.
I think we have to define like what happens in the story, right? What kind of story is it? Because that's gonna guide how they came to it. You know, how they approached it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess what do you mean? Define the story. I mean,
so
define the story for us, Steve.
For me, a lot of the story revolves around. There's two things that it revolves around. Maybe three, but let's stick with two.
Maybe four.
Is the conflict that comes from the way of life of the Undercity dwellers or the Zonians and the, I guess, surface dwellers, and the conflict that's brewing there, and not just between like specific groups of people, like, yeah, you're my enemy, but like really just about the systematic unfairness of life and how do you get past this? How do you trust each other? Stuff like that. And then on the other, similarly, I think it was about the relationship between Vi and Jinx and how that went up and down and stuff.
Yeah.
And so given those two, I guess, features, I would say they did a cool job of showing of making both characters, let's just say Vi and Powder for now. They did a great job of humanizing both characters and giving us lots of backstory for their relationship. And it didn't feel like, you know, in some shows, you know, when they stopped being in each other's lives, it would have been a flashback and it would have been a given, right? They don't really, like you as the audience, you don't really understand what happened. You just know that it happened. But here I felt like I really understood, like, man, that's exactly how, you know, Vi felt when she abandoned her sister. And that's exactly how Powder felt when she tried to help and screwed up and got abandoned and got taken in. Like, it really felt like they were both, I mean, it's hard to say that Jinx is a protagonist because she was acting straight up evil for most of the show. But I really felt like I understood her. You know, she felt like she was running the show when she wasn't being, there was some edginess that I was like, that's a little too much. But other than that, I felt like she was totally human. So the entire time, the conflict felt very grounded and fleshed out. And I couldn't even tell who I wanted to win or lose or what I wanted to happen in a situation.
Yeah. Nice. Except for, I guess, Silco. I was never on Silco's side.
Even with Silco, I felt like, well, you know, at the beginning, I'm like, oh, he's just a cartoon villain. But when they explain kind of his, I mean, he's still a cartoon villain, but the way that he related to people, I could get behind that. Like the way he related to Xander. Yeah, I'm like, oh, I can see how he can hate and love Xander.
Yeah.
And then even the turn for him to take on Powder, you know, as a daughter, after finding out he did have the connection to Vander, and Vander treated Powder like her daughter, like maybe. And that's one of the things that I liked about it, is that it also gave you those opportunities to kind of fill in things yourself. So like maybe Silco was so attached to Jinx Powder because of also that connection that was severed with Vander. You know, because they called each other brothers. You know, we didn't really get to see their backstory, but we knew that the stuff that happened between them was really tragic and that they didn't want to hurt each other necessarily. You know, even though they were having their own power struggle in the Undercity. But I will say there's one thing that kind of bothered me about Vander, and maybe you guys can clear this up for me. So I've binged the show, and so there's probably a lot of things that I just don't remember because it hasn't really like sank in. But so V and Powder meet Vander after he is involved in like a surface level war, right?
No.
Well, continue. Just go through, and then we'll correct anywhere.
Yeah. So Yeah, 'cause I'm trying to remember because I see them like there's a bunch of fire and he's like fighting some people. He's punching folks, and they walk over to where he is. They lock eyes. Then V sees her parents on the ground dead, but we never saw who exactly Vander was punching to death, and so I wasn't certain if he killed their parents and then took them.
So,
No.
I mean, this is so basically the reason Vander didn't want to even fight the quote unquote police is because at some point in time, the people from what was the area called? The Undercity. They basically tried to do a rebellion, I guess you could say. And there was conflict. Vander knew, Powder and Vi's parents personally, and they knew Vander.
You should clarify. Vi and Powder grew up in the Undercity. They all knew Vander to begin with.
They all knew him. They all they grew up as kids, and so that's why Vander was there. And when in the beginning, it just showed Vander basically the aftermath. Basically, they lost the fight. Vander was fighting an officer or whatever they're called, and then him just saying them seeing their parents dead essentially. And then Vander took them on. Because
their parents took part in the rebellion.
Yeah.
Under Vander's leadership.
Under his leadership. And that's why Vander doesn't want to go to war anymore because he got so many people killed for basically nothing, in his opinion, at least. You could see that. Yeah.
That makes a whole lot more sense to me now.
Okay.
Because I was okay with what I perceived happened, but I think I like this version better. Because I think it's kind of an interesting thing that, well, there was a disconnect for me because I was like, wait, that guy just beat up your parents and now you're letting him carry you. And so I was like, okay, they're kids, so maybe they're naive type of thing. They didn't see him do it. But so I was accepting a lot because it was the first episode and I was already confused. So,
but I mean,
this is better for me.
It would be on brand because going back to the main narrative, there's a lot of stories in the show, but there's a main narrative, which is Powder and Vi, right? Their sisterhood and what that basically, wrought. And if anything, if you think about it, their relationship is just a parallel to, Silco and Vander. They were clearly maybe, I don't know if they were physical brothers, but they were brothers, for what, and their relationship in some level of betrayal caused them to go different directions and almost hate each other, but also kind of love each other. You know what I'm saying? That love-hate. And
they respected each other.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I think it's important to note, they didn't really explain it, but it seems like the betrayal stemmed from a difference of politics, essentially, where Vander wanted to be more peaceful.
No. I think it was the other way. I think Silco wanted to be underground, underhandedly take over the city. Actually, there's a good chance that we have no clue what their actual conflict was.
Yeah, you might be right.
Because it's very, very physical. I mean, to get to the point where you're in the water drowning another person, something significant had to happen. Difference in opinions. Okay, you do your thing, I do my thing. But something because if anything, Vander could be considered the villain in that scenario. Because from Silco's perspective, he feels that he was betrayed, and Vander doesn't even go I didn't betray you, you betrayed me. You know what I'm saying?
He's I tried to kill you.
Yeah, he just says, hey, that's just what it is, and I feel bad about it, but I don't. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Maybe he knew that Silco was not a good person or something, but the only person who truly feels betrayed is Silco in that scenario.
I think you can extrapolate what the conflict was based on the way that they ran the underground. So Vander came out on top, and so we see him in the beginning. He runs the place pretty well. I think the conflict was that, maybe I was wrong at first. I think the conflict was that Silco wanted to completely secede and essentially, civil war status, be our own nation of Zon, have our own freedom, do things our way. I don't think it's necessarily that he wanted to be underhanded. He was extreme. Whereas Vander was more willing to collaborate and be we'll still be part of I forget what the city is called. Piltover.
Piltover.
We'll still be part of Piltover, but we'll
But
live with them.
But wouldn't you think that is the opposite? Because Vander's his first, I guess, approach was to go all out war, right? Like,
well, I don't know if
because
I don't know what the timeline was between their betrayal and that war.
I mean, it was clearly years, maybe like a solid decade, because how much younger they were when that moment happened. But at least their approach on how they thought about Piltover was one of like a pure aggression and one of like, how do we like separate but do it in a way that's like it might be bad, it might not be the way to do it, but we get our own sovereignty through diplomacy. You know what I'm saying? Like, it seems like Silco's goal was to do it through diplomacy, even if it was evil, and like Vander's was to do it through power in his
force.
Through force. And I wonder if there was like a moment where they were both trying to lead this group, and it was like, they were fighting over who should win, and their opinions differed, and then they, I wonder, likely that they'll never clarify that, because now, for those who haven't seen the show, they're dead, both of them. But
I love how you mentioned that. We're like 20 minutes into talking about the plot. For those who haven't seen the show,
they're dead. If you didn't know, so
they did.
Oopsie.
But there's a chance that we might get a flashback on that, because it might be relevant to what's going to happen in the future. But
I don't think so. Because all the characters who would have been there or who knew about it or would care about it are dead. It was pretty much on Vander's side. It was pretty much just Vander and Benzine, whatever that guy's name was. Benzo, and then the enforcer, the woman who dies in like the second or third episode.
The captain,
the one who was Marcus's.
The captain. Yeah, I forget her name.
Commanding officer.
Yeah.
So she probably knew stuff about it. Well, maybe she knew some of it.
I have a bet, and just in general, this is a random thing. I have a feeling they're going to do a prequel to Arcane where they follow Silco and Vander separately.
I'd be down for that.
I feel like they're going to do that. To leave so many like unanswered questions, I feel like they're purposely doing that. So, you can see how it led to that, like a prequel movies type of thing. I just have a feeling. That's what
I'll take that bet.
I might have lost Smash 2020, but I think I'll win this one.
That game still ain't come out.
I mean, The Witcher has a prequel coming out. Once it's popular enough, they got season 2. Now they have a prequel. So I'm telling you, son.
They took this show.
What are you talking about?
Witcher has another series, a live action prequel series. The Witcher.
Oh. Yeah, I did see the trailer for that at the end of season 2.
But sorry, what were you going to say, Kyle?
I was just saying, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility just because of where they took this show. Like, I don't think anybody would have guessed that they would just follow this singular character's path, pretty much, of like what created Jinx. If you wanted to boil it down to like a singular narrative,
I think it's what created Jinx and Vi, and then by proxy, Jace, right? Like,
and not just them, but the situation that's boiling over in Piltover, where people are about to go to war again, and you have hex magic, which is starting to become a thing. Mm-hmm. I assume that hex tech or whatever is more prominent in the games, and so we saw the beginning of that. That's how it felt to me. I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know either. The game does have a lot of like aura and stuff, and a lot of it is blue. So
I assume that's because if you think about it, like they, Heimerdinger was saying like, hey, I was alive when people were like the mages or the magicians were doing things, and that stuff was super evil, and they were doing like super wrong things, and that's the reason we made Piltover, to get away from magicians completely and fully like be about science, like the hard, science instead of magic or whatever. So I have a feeling that Lord of the Rings, League of Legends is just like when, after it's become like everybody has magic now, you don't have to be a magician or whatever, a mage. It's interesting because as you think about the story, as I reflect on it more now we're talking about, though narratively you would say, oh, the story's about the two sisters, but really the narrative is about how one action in a moment changed everybody's path, right?
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, Vi, like Echo, overhearing Jace, well, it really starts with Jace, right? Because Jace goes down to the Undercity to buy some equipment on the low so he can do his magic stuff, his research, without anybody knowing, because he knows what he's doing is not right, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Echo being super smart, like, you know, just being a kid. Number one, I love Echo. He's like my favorite character. He just tells Vi. Now Vi, wanting to be like Vander, goes, hey, let's do a job with her friends.
Steal this stuff.
Powder, being her little sister who wants to be like Vi, follows along. And then Jinx, you know, because she's a Jinx, does one action that more or less reveals Jace's intentions, starts everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, if anything, it's kind of Jace's fault, but Vi's decision to rob them and to bring Powder along is kind of like what, you know, sets everything off, you know?
You could say that. I mean, I think that's really interesting. They called her Jinx, and, you know, what was his name? Milo was talking trash. Like, stuff always goes wrong.
Right.
When she's there. And at the beginning, when it's just the one job, and it's like, oh yeah, the pebble fell out of her pocket. Like, what are the odds that would happen? That's not a mistake she made. That was just, yeah, it would just seem like bad luck. But then when things kept going wrong, I was like, oh, it really does feel like something about her like causes bad scenarios to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always against her best intentions.
I think they picked like really strong moments to show that, because they did kind of do exposition through Milo by saying every time she comes, and, you know, insinuating that they've done a couple jobs where she comes with them and messes everything up. But I think
I thought he was exaggerating.
What'd you say?
I thought he was exaggerating until it became clear that it seemed like it happens a lot.
Right. Yeah. And so that's why I think they did a really good job of the way that they set up, because they could have done like a whole montage where the shows do of like really cutaways of them in missions and her like tripping over something.
Yeah. With like the goofy music, the Star Wars Cantana music.
Whip. And they took the high road on that and actually showed like a few scenarios, and then quickly got to her just making the biggest oopsie. So,
you know, it's interesting because I think Jinx is not really a Jinx. I think she was just a child with teenagers, right? Like, if you brought a child to do anything that teenagers do, they're fundamentally going to not do it well, right? Like, they're just, you know, not going to think about certain things. Their coordination is not as good. They're going to like underthink and overdo, you know, and I think in many ways, Powder's actions through that whole series of events is, one, she shouldn't have been there in the first place. She was trying to jump across a roof. I was like, that little girl's gonna die. That's
she made it.
She made it. Like, she's just competent enough to stick along. But okay, she goes off on her own. She's like, ooh, this is cool. I'm gonna take this. She's taking things that really aren't relevant, just things that interest her because she's a kid. It's shiny. And then even her actions when she's getting chased by the dude after the fight is just like, I'm a kid. I don't know what to do. He's bigger than me. He's going to steal this. I don't want him to have it. The better option is to just throw it in the water. Nobody has it. Then when they're like, you know, when everything's going down in the Undercity and the soldiers are coming around, she's always the person who's about to get caught. Like, she was up, you know, Shailene made this point. Why did they give her the most difficult place to hide, which was in the ceiling, where she has to prop her body up?
Right.
You know, like, it's wrong. And in many ways, it is Vi's fault. Like, she loves her sister and she wants her to be with her, and Jinx wants to follow along, right? But it's like Vi needed to make the decision as a leader that she's just not ready yet. You know what I'm saying? Like, she needs to step back because she wasn't a Jinx. She's just a kid. And then as she got older, she just leaned into that. And then her actions were not Jinx actions. They were just bad actions because that's what she saw herself as. I'm going to just do whatever. I'm going to be chaotic. I'm going to, you know, and she also had mental illness, clearly. So, you know.
Clearly. Trauma.
I disagree. I think that was how it seemed at first. It was like, oh yeah, kids make mistakes. Kids shouldn't be doing the things that she's doing. But I think just the absolute massive screw up, right? So and it's not just the fact that like, oh, she sent a bomb. Let's talk about like, the screw up where she gets everyone killed. She didn't just send a bomb, which was a bad decision. She didn't just go against orders, which was a bad decision. That's contrast. Like basically the outcome is that, most of her friends die, her father dies, and she gets, and Vi's the only one who doesn't die, right? That's the outcome. That's like almost a worst case scenario compared to the scenario if she hadn't shown up, which would have been absolutely perfect. Because homie was breaking down that wall. Other homie was popping the cuffs to let Vander out. Vi was fighting or the doors were locked actually, but she had been fighting. She was doing good. Like they would have escaped scot-free, like no issues at all. And she basically screwed up a totally clean exit in the worst way possible. And so for me, I'm like, that says more storytelling wise than, oh, she's just a kid who makes mistakes. It's I think so.
I mean, I agree with you. It's like totally narratively, like it's a perfect moment to show how much of a screw up she is. But I think fundamentally it's because she's a kid with nobody to like think about the moment. Like me and Charlene were talking about this. Like the moment before she takes those actions, she's tripping. Like she's she's not like, oh, I'm like, she's having a mental
meltdown.
Meltdown. She's having a meltdown. She hasn't had the parenting or the guidance or anything. So like for her as a child who's clearly way smarter than most children, right? Like her and Echo are clearly like above and beyond all the other people under whatever. And she's in a moment where she's dealing with, oh, she's a mess up. She's the reason, like she's thinking she's the reason that all this is happening.
And she was by herself.
And she's by herself and there's nobody. And she's a kid and she's like, I want to help. And that's her mentality, right? And she's smart enough to know, oh, this thing is what made it blow up. Like, let me go help. And yeah, I totally feel you, Steve. I totally feel you. But I just really feel like in any other scenario, like she wouldn't be a jinx. She'd just be a stupid little kid. You know what I'm saying? And it was definitely monumental. Like, I totally feel you. But I don't think she's fundamentally a jinx. I just think that she's a jinx because she was out of her depth, if that makes sense.
Which made it kind of weird to me that Silco called her Jinx, because Vi was the only one that called her Jinx when she was younger, other than Milo, teasing her. But like when Vi said it, you really are a Jinx, is when it got solidified to Powder. So I'm curious about if Powder said that was her name and that's the persona she took on whenever she realized that the switch happened. Because to the point earlier, I forgot who made it, but she was more chaotic than she was a Jinx in her adulthood, if you will, because she didn't
super chaotic.
Because she didn't make mistakes necessarily. Like she decided to cause destruction, and then whenever she went on one of her fits, stuff happened, but it still wasn't necessarily mistakes. She was just really erratic, and so it was bad stuff happening, but still somewhat intentional. Versus like, she's trying to shoot everybody, but then her gun jams because she has really bad luck or something. That's a bad example, but it's like,
that's fair. Yeah.
Something outside of her, I think, is what would cause the bad luck if she was truly jinxed.
I definitely feel Steve though, because it's kind of like, no, yeah, I definitely think that she named herself that. I think that's totally like, my name is Jinx because everybody says I'm a Jinx. She's a kid, and Silco doesn't seem like the type of parent to go, well, maybe we should call you something.
On the other hand, I think Silco probably like actively encouraged it because he was all about like,
forget your family, all about
embracing like who you are.
Oh yeah,
you're perfect as you are. Like we'll show them. And if they say you're a Jinx, then you'll be a Jinx, and that's just the way I like you, baby.
Yeah,
I think he encouraged that.
Yeah, I think it's like an interesting thing because it's like she's a Jinx because it's almost like she has too much, like she has too much power and not enough responsibility.
Yeah, or experience.
Reliability.
Yeah, like she's a giant liability. She's so smart. She's so strong. She's quick thinking. You know, she's doing all these things, but it's like she's just the wrong person to have those skills. You know,
That's kind of what I was getting at. Not necessarily that it's like supernatural or outside of herself, just that in relation to from the perspective of the people she's trying to help, she's not helpful.
yeah.
Oh,
Even before I don't know. The people who worked for Silco were all complaining about her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were like, you
Whether
need
it's
to
on
sideline
purpose
her.
or not.
But
Yeah.
and it really became a thing because she was almost like, it's kind of like let's take somebody like John Wick, right? John Wick is a beast in his job as like an assassin. Now, if John Wick was man number 2 under some villain, like you can't, and the villain is never going to be as good as John Wick. You know what I'm saying? So you as the villain are like, the only way that I can keep John Wick on my side is to kind of emotionally and like manipulate him or use loyalty to manipulate him. Because the moment he goes rogue, it's over. Right?
Yeah, nobody can stop him.
So I think Silco was definitely smart in everything he did, right? Because he was like, yo, I've created a problem that I can't get rid of, right? And
you
also,
a survivor, man.
yes. And Silco is also, me and Charlene were talking about like, Silco is more or less the, what's his name? Finger snap and half the people go away. Thanos. Because if you think about Thanos' relationship with Gamora, it's like Silco's relationship with Jinx. Like,
wow. You like, just made that Marvel parallel, didn't you?
I don't know.
No, think about it. I'm gonna propose it, and you can definitely shoot it out. But think about this: Gamora was not Thanos' child by choice in a sense. Like she didn't choose to be his child; she was kind of forced into that scenario, right? Differently, Jinx kind of like owned it because she had nowhere to go, right? Over time, Gamora like resents Thanos, but Thanos always loves Gamora. Even if it's to his detriment and and he loves his daughter. And I feel like Silco's the same thing. Like he came to love Jinx, even though he kind of knew it was his detriment. Because I think fundamentally he knew if I got rid of Jinx and at this point, I'd be good. You know what I'm saying? Like Jinx has gotten him to where he is, but he doesn't need her anymore. But he kind of acted, instead of the way that he normally acted, which was very calculated and very intellectually, with Jinx, it was always like emotional. You know what I'm saying? And I think the same thing with Thanos. There's many times where he could have just obliterated Gamora, but he just kind of like,
he did the one time.
I mean, he did it when he needed what he needed, right? I think they differ a little bit in the sense that Thanos was a lot more mission oriented. Sure. But, I really just mean the parallel in the love.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the key ways that they kind of tend to humanize, especially male villains, is like with a daughter figure. Because like that emotional bond and that loyalty is, because even if you think like maybe he treated her like a love interest, but even like the Joker and Harley Quinn had a similar vibe where it's like he's chaotic, but he loves this girl type of thing. And so I think like that emotional attachment that these guys build with their hench woman is like it's kind of a common trope. Now that you mention it, 'cause I didn't think about that.
Kind of to ground them and to give them some, I don't want to say meaning or purpose, but something that drives them a little bit beyond just purely their purpose, or to humanize them. I think you said it perfectly.
Yeah. It's funny. He wasn't willing to give her up for anything. Actually, we never see him follow through on his decision to not give her up at the end of the show. He just says, "I would never have given you up."
Right.
And
so Silco,
I'm willing to believe him.
So let me ask you this: like, that's a good question. Do you think from the actions you can think of Silco, was Silco a deceiver? Like, did he lie to people? He always seemed pretty straightforward, in my opinion. I don't know. What did y'all think he would have? Like,
yeah, I have to agree. I think he's pretty straightforward.
He was honest but manipulative.
Okay. Yeah.
Like he didn't like trick that kid into taking the shimmer potion in the first episode or the second episode. Mm-hmm. He basically said, "Here's this potion. Here's what it's going to do to you.
And he did
Here's why
somewhat
you should take
threaten him, said you want to stay weak, like as if he, would have killed him if he wasn't going to take it. So he was insinuating a lot of things, but.
Well, no, it wasn't a threat. It was like, you just got beat up by these girls. Do you want to stay weak?
That
right?
too, yeah.
Like, and the kid, what was his reaction? He like basically just wipes his mouth and downs it. Like, he's not like scared. He's not like, okay. He's like, yeah, you're right. Let me do that, Jock.
Silco, I mean, he did deceive one point in the show, which was the moment where the police officer chief gets killed, and I almost called the man Bug Snacks.
Who are you talking about?
The dude who sells the wares, Echo's basic dad, like Echo's dad.
Oh, Benzo.
Like he did do some betrayal, like in certain moments.
Oh, he lied to Marcus.
Yeah, but he never did it to his people. Like, if you were his people, like even with the perfect example, yeah, like you mentioned with the kid, like the kid was about to probably get murdered, right? But then he gave him information that was helpful, and he said, "Oh, that was good information. No, I'm not going to kill you. Cool." But like he's pretty straightforward with his people, but like when you're outside of his team, he might be a little bit slippery. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, but who's not?
True.
I've been known to be slippery to my enemies.
Yes, I've seen you in that green suit. You look very slippery.
It's actually not. It's very grippy.
It's
really unpleasant when it gets wet.
You basically look like a lizard. Like you just climb on off.
I have to cut off my leg if you catch me.
Oh no.
So let me ask you guys a little bit about Vi, because we talked a lot about Jinx, but like personally, and me and Shailene were kind of talking about this. Like, I feel like Vi kind of is at fault for like a lot of the stuff that preceded like the moment.
She's at the center of it for sure.
Yeah, like she was old enough to know better, but she was like doing things that I feel like was just, I don't know. I feel like Vi was supposed to be like the good guy in this show. You know what I'm saying? Like she was like, oh, like, I grew up a kid. I just was like in the hood, just doing what I got to do. They put me in jail on false charges. I love my sister and I want to take her back. And, it wasn't her fault that she couldn't reach Jinx because she was in jail, which probably happened because of Silco. Silco probably told Marcus or whatever to put her in jail.
No, he told Marcus to kill her, and Marcus said, "I'm not going to kill her. I'll put her in jail."
Okay. I might have missed that.
That was the big deceit.
That's why he thought she was dead. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
That's why.
I forgot
exactly.
about that. Yeah.
So yeah, when Jinx is like, "You lied to me," and he's like, "I didn't lie to you. I really thought she was dead." Marcus lied to us.
Wow.
That's crazy. So like, it really feels like Vi's only mistake was bringing Powder on that mission. And then, of course, she's a teenager, so you kill her dad, she's just gonna say things. You know what I'm saying? Like,
if you get her killed. Yeah, that situation was awful. I don't know what I would... Man, I like... If Keisha leaves a door open and I walk into it because I wasn't looking, I'll be like, "Why'd you leave that door open?" Like, I'm mad and am in pain. But it's not reasonable to be mad at her. Like, who wouldn't leave a door open? That's stupid. But I totally get like the frustration and anger and the loss that she must be feeling. It's like all because you set up this stupid bomb
in the moment,
even though it didn't seem totally unreasonable.
But it was kind of building up too, because so Vander warned Vi about how she was in a leadership role with all these kids, and like anything they said, anything you tell them to do, they'll do. And so she had that pressure. And then she had Milo saying, every time your sister comes, something goes wrong, and she wouldn't handle that. And then Powder would come along and almost die or almost kill them or get something really wrong, and she would never say anything. And so I think it was just like, once it got to the point to where there were like tremendous repercussions, it was just a breaking point. Like in the same way that Powder's mind broke that day, I think Vi's did, but they just didn't show it.
Yeah, she was overwhelmed by that moment where she faltered as a leader when she should have done the right thing. I really liked Vander's talk with Vi. When he said that, he's like, "Look, man, they will do whatever you tell them to do. So you need to think about them." And, he made his own mistakes and he was really trying to like be better. Like, Vander was kind of like a sad story because he was trying to be better, but like
legitimately,
it was just the circumstances and his mistakes in the past, his making an enemy of Silco. Like there was just so much that
couldn't get out.
He was kind of cursed. And to see Vi finally probably made the right decision to tell Powder to stay home on that mission. But because at that moment, Powder felt like a lot of it was her fault and she felt like she needed to fix it. And, like she felt like, oh, I'm the one who messed everything up. I'm a jinx. I want to make things better. And if that kind of like you said, Steve, like in that moment, all your friends are dead. Your dad's dead. You're in pain and you see your little sister who you told stay home, who in your heart was trying to do the right thing, right? But you're in your emotions. Yeah, you call her a jinx. Yeah, you say those things, but you don't mean it in that way,
right.
You just, but she's a little girl. She's impressionable. And I just think about, and this is just kind of a side tangent. God willing, I ever have kids. Like I have to really fight when they're trying to do the right thing, but they do something wrong, to love them and not to purely admonish them. Like love them in the moment and admonish them later. Like do it backwards. Like you tried to do the right thing. Like there's this commercial where these kids were like, Daddy, I'm washing your car. Right. And he comes outside like, oh, that's so great. And all the windows are down. And they're washing inside the car. And to be dead honest, that was the greatest lesson I've ever learned, because the dad looked at them and you could see him make the decision. He said, you know what? Thank you guys for washing the car. I'm going to take it over here from here. I love how clean it looks. You know what I'm saying? Right. But later, and they're little kids, like 4, 5, 6, 7. He's going to talk to them later. Hey guys, when you wash my car, you know what I'm saying? Like, but my mindset is like, what are you kids doing? Da-da-da. But all that's teaching them is don't do anything good for daddy. Never serve. And she's a teenager, so she doesn't have the insight. But I thought that was just a very interesting moment,
I still remember like the one time, probably not the one time, but I still remember one time my dad like swore at me. Ooh. My dad was a pretty like gentle guy. Mm-hmm. But I don't think he swore at me. I think he just swore like in front of me out of anger. But like we were at the beach and I think a wave like knocked his sunglasses off and they, vanished into the deep.
Oh no.
And I think it was my fault for some reason and he got mad at me for a split second. And I remember that. Like,
oh yeah, it sticks with you.
Yeah. He was never like that. He wasn't like abusive or anything. But I remember that. I remember that more than like the actual spankings I got from him when I messed up.
Right. Because moments like that are more visceral.
Yeah, that was real. It's funny you bring up a car. I had a car situation. I had a friend. I was staying over at his house. It was snowing and he had to get up early to leave to go to work or something. And so he texts me, I was still sleeping. He texts me, he's like, hey man, I'm de-icing your car too. I'm like, oh man, I really appreciate that. Thanks. I get outside later and I realized that he had taken his de-icing, whatever, the scraper, and had scraped the entire surface of my car.
Oh.
Not just the windows. And I have a dark colored car. So like essentially I used to have a car with this beautiful sheen. And since then, it's just been dull.
Oh,
because
that's where the scratches on the top of your car came from, huh?
Probably, yeah.
Wow. And he meant well.
He meant well, and it wasn't. I had a text on like, "Hey, I don't remember what the tone I took, but that was the exact like battle I was fighting. And if he had been there in the moment, I probably would have been harsher to him. Thankfully, I had to talk to him remotely, so I don't know if I took advantage, but I had some time to like collect myself.
I think that's a theme that's like throughout the show, is that good intentions don't necessarily mean you need to do whatever you're trying to do. Because like, I think there's a parallel between like Jace and Powder, because they were both messing with technology and stuff that they didn't really understand because they were trying to make things better for the people around them and stuff. And so for Jace to have...
Against the advice of others.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And so Jace had, the direct advice of Heimerdinger. Mm-hmm. What's his name?
Yeah, the Furby.
The Furby. Saying, I have experience with this. It's too dangerous. Also somebody in his other ear saying, oh, think of the possibilities. But then like Jinx was just she had like a different set of like inputs or feedback. She was like, none of your stuff ever works, or when it does work, it messes everything up. And so it's like, that, and then both of them that just having this desire, like what Brad said earlier, they're just smarter than everyone else around them, and to not do this thing probably would drive them even more crazy than getting all this rejection does.
Yeah, it's so interesting because like thinking about Jace and Victor, because Jace and Victor became, basically best friends, right? From that scenario. Essentially Victor saved Jace's life after that moment, because he was, was about to, jump off the building. Sorry.
I really appreciate that they remain good friends, because I thought there would be conflict of them like being driven apart and becoming enemies,
right?
Like Vi and Powder, but that doesn't happen. I'm like, thank God. I couldn't.
So I think something like that happens. We can talk about it, but it's like like they didn't become enemies by like some moment where they separated and then fought. It was more of like they started having different goals. You know what I'm saying? And then going down different routes. But it's interesting because,
but they came back together at the end. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah,
like they didn't keep diverging. They eventually came back around and got on the same page
because they had the same heart. They always. Like Jace, Jace kind of lost his way, maybe more than Victor. It's interesting. They both lost their way.
They both lost their way.
But it's like they never lost what they wanted to do, but they didn't know how to achieve it. And they saw things happening around them and they were responding to it. So they're a little reactive, but they kind of knew like, this is wrong. This is not the way I should go. And they're, what I'm saying? They're treading. And it's interesting because like, I think Heimerdinger and Victor, like, Jace needed them both, but he needed them like in one person. Like, because Heimerdinger's problem was he had the benefit of, he said, like, I've lived forever. So he in general is a lot more patient. Like, oh, we don't know, let's not do this, we get 100 years from now. You know what I'm saying? Time. But he never was able to get the perspective that like other people don't feel that, like they can just take their time. So he kind of fundamentally his go-to is to shut you down, right? Like, oh, that's a good idea, little child. Like, and he always kind of talked down to you. So he
called everyone my child or my son or whatever.
Yeah. So you kind of felt like, come on, Heimerdinger. While Victor was like, hey, let's go for it. Like, and Victor had the opposite where he knew his time was short.
Right.
So he said, we got to do it now. Because if we don't do it now, I'll never get a chance. You know what I'm saying? So like Jace had literally both sides of the spectrum. A man or a creature who lived hundreds of years and a man who lived maybe 30, 40 years. You know what I'm saying? So Jace was in this weird place where he's like, I don't have the tools to do everything and I want to do the right thing. And he first was kind of like, you could see him, like he would listen to Victor sometimes. He'd listen to Heimerdinger. He'd go back and forth. And then the moment that counted where he was like trying to make that decision and Heimerdinger, instead of like Heimerdinger being like, hey, maybe we could approach this differently. Like he just went for the power move, right? To sideline him. It's very interesting. Like all these characters.
Right.
And how if they had the right influences, maybe the story would be different,
I feel like Heimerdinger is such an interesting or kind of a weird, he kind of sticks out in the show because I'm like, yeah, he's super old and he's super conservative and like, willing, patient is a good way to put it. But it also seemed like he lacked wisdom because he lacked a lot of deftness in dealing with Jace and Victor. He really felt like he didn't know what he was doing and he made a lot of obvious mistakes. Or maybe that's just the work of Mel, right? Because she was pretty cunning.
Yeah, she was involved.
And she definitely was like actively trying to undermine the advice that Heimerdinger was giving. I thought she was evil. I guess she was just self-interested
like at first.
But she had a change of heart, toward the end, right?
Yeah, I think she was just self-interested and was willing to like. She was self-interested and she was unwise.
But you kind of find you kind of understand, I guess, the motive behind her attitude when her mom shows up.
When her mom, oh man,
yeah, exactly.
All this time she's been trying to prove herself
to her mom,
and prepare herself and like make a place for herself. But yeah, it felt like he could have explained things a lot better and maybe convinced Jason Victor to chill out. I mean, I don't know about you guys. I felt like that hex core that he made was obviously evil almost from the very beginning.
Yeah, runes all over it.
Well, I don't know if it was obviously evil. I think it's just one of those things where it's like, you don't know what you're messing with. Once it changed form, I was like, okay. Like, we need to not mess with it. When it was like just the pure like hex kind of.
Let me rephrase. It wasn't obviously evil, but I was thinking the whole time, like, is this thing sentient? It seems kind of evil.
Mm-hmm.
And then it got goopy, and I'm like, oh, it's a problem.
You know, I think Heimerdinger. So it's interesting because I don't really remember this much. You know, maybe I'll go back and watch it again. But like Heimerdinger was talking about the foundation, the building of Piltover, right? You know, Piltover was made to be a kind of like a safe place from the refuge, right? And they were talking about the guy who helped to build it with him. And it's interesting that like Heimerdinger is clearly like the OG. He's been around forever. But like even Heimerdinger kind of realized like, I'm not the guy who made Piltover. It was this guy, you know? And maybe
I don't remember that.
It was the statue of that like scientist who kind of looked like a mad scientist.
It was definitely kind of like, they treated it like a throwaway moment. So it was easy to miss, but it was huge though. I don't know why they did that.
Yeah, like I kind of zoned out in that moment, but like thinking about it, like I remember like him really talking about like the core principles of Piltover. And one thing that like kind of stood out for me as you were mentioning, Steve, is that, like Heimerdinger seems not to be able to understand humans or whatever he is type of people. Non-Furbies. Because his perspective seems to be like you kind of said, like he belittles everybody, but he doesn't come back and say like, hey, I really understand where you're coming from. Like he never empathizes.
Never.
Like he's very high level scientist. Like he's a true scientist. Like what's the impact of this research and how does it benefit us in the long term?
Facts.
Right? You know, the facts. And I think that like Heimerdinger's actual release from the council is kind of his like story arc changing moment where he's starting to have to empathize because he didn't even realize how bad the understudy. He finally went and he was like, oh snap, I can't even stay here. I need to go because the hood is the hood, you know? And in his mind, he started to realize that he even saw the humans as disposable. Like who cares about what's happening in the Undercity as long as Piltover is prosperous, right? And him,
as long as there's peace,
and there's no safety. Like at what cost, it doesn't matter, you know. And
it seemed like, oh, you can go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, and I think his relationship with Echo is gonna be the kind of where you see him change. But yeah, what were you saying, Kyle?
Yeah, and so I think, like you were saying, when he was removed from the council, it's like finally his eyes were opened because even though he'd been alive for hundreds of years, he still had such a narrow way of looking at things. Like when he found Echo's hoverboard, the first thing he did was criticize it and say it wasn't made properly for the conditions he was used to.
Yeah.
And so Echo was like, no, it's built for somewhere else. Like this is something you've never experienced in your 100 years of living.
Good point.
And so then, like, for him to be astonished by everything they were able to create in the Undercity too, because that was a recurring thing, is that people from the upper city, whenever they did go down there, everybody had like the same reaction. I didn't realize it was this bad.
Yeah.
Because I guess the people that did come from the Undercity, like even the kids, like if you just saw them, of course their clothes were dirty, but you know, they didn't really give off the idea that it was the slums.
Yeah.
Especially after Silco had his way and flooded the place with Shimmer.
Right. Oh, that was horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, that man, that area
that cracked in, that giant cracked in. Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
man,
bro, that was ridiculous.
Yeah, that was. At first, I didn't understand what was going on. I was like, why are these people weird? Like, what's going on here? And you know, as it progressed, I was like, yo, this is literally the crack epidemic. Like,
it was.
This is just where they put all the crackheads. And then Silco would just use them to his benefit. He'd come down there, here's some crack, do what I want you to do. And they were just so jonesing
Yeah, they had the crackhead strength.
Yeah, they literally did. That crackhead strength. You know,
Oh my gosh.
you know what's so interesting about Heimerdinger? He reminds me of a personal story. When I was in high school, so I think I've told you guys this, but the school district that I was in didn't have the program that my parents wanted me and my siblings to be in, so we had to go to another school district. And that school district was an hour away by car drive. So
Whoa.
it was 2 hours by bus drive, one way, right? So from fourth grade until I graduated from high school, I rode a bus across Atlanta to go to a school that had programs that were, better, higher education. They called it the magnet program, high achiever. And I had to have a minimum GPA. I always had to have more than 3.0. And basically what they called it, so there's a program that preceded it called M&M, which is called minority to majority, right? And the whole goal is to take minorities and put them in better opportunities with the majority, right?
Wow.
We used to call it Busing Black People Cross Atlanta program. Right? Because it was just buses of black kids getting sent to areas where there was no, didn't have as much representation. So anyway, such an interesting moment. I'm in my my 11th grade or senior year of high school, senior year. And I had a teacher who taught AP calculus, and she was known to be a head busser, right? She did not play. Our homework was super intense. Everything that we did was intense. And I was struggling in the class, to be honest, right? But I was doing enough to get by. But she was also known for having like a 95% pass rate on the AP exam. On the AP exam. When I say 95%.
High school, Kyle.
Well, I don't know.
95% people who took her class got a 5 or the highest score on the AP exam. So
that's insane.
Yeah. So like she had a regimen. She knew what she was doing. So, toward the end of the year coming to AP exams, she started to give us this program, this regimen to get us prepared for the AP exam. So what we'd have to do is go to the school, and we had to get there at like 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. to take these tests or exams, right? Or it would have to be at the beginning of the school day, like maybe 7:30 or something like that. Now, remember, me and all my friends who look like me have to take two buses to get to that school.
Mm-hmm.
I got up every morning from 4th to senior year at 5 a.m. in the morning, 4:45, to catch my bus at 5:30 to get to school. But because you're traveling across a giant city, we were late a lot to school, right? Like, we would be sprinting in the hallways so we don't get a demerit, you know what I'm saying, getting written up,
wow.
Right? So this is just our normal life. We don't think nothing of it, right? So we keep showing up late to do her practice tests, right?
Oh, wow.
Like the practice tests are at like 7:30. We always show up at 7:45. Me and all the other kids who are of color. But most of the class, the class was pretty diverse, but most of the class was like, majority and not that many people, black people. Let's be real, right? So one day, and this was so incredible. This is her Heimerdinger moment. She said she's yelling at us for being late. She's like, y'all are always late. You guys don't care about this AP exam. You guys are da-da-da-da-da-da. And then like somebody's like, we aren't doing anything. We just get on the bus and we come here. And she's like, you guys can do better. You guys can do better. And she's like, you guys aren't getting up early enough to get here. And like, I'm like, I get up at 5 a.m. She's like, 5 a.m.? How are you still late? And then we start to explain to her that we ride this bus. And she's been doing this program for years. My brother is 5 years older than me and took her class, right?
Oh my gosh.
And she was like, you guys get up at 5 a.m. and take 2 buses to get here? And
No
we're like,
idea.
We're like, yeah, like everybody has. And she says, wait, everybody? She's like, yeah. And we were like, yeah, all of us. Of course, all of the black students. And she was like, oh my goodness. like she was just taken back. Like,
wow.
And I really felt like that's what happens a lot, right? Like we don't know what other people are going through and we just get this idea in our head. And funny thing is she didn't change like our scheduling, but she had a lot more grace on us when we came late. Right. But think about this. She's been in that role for like 10 years and she's been destroying all these students who are coming from my situation, having no clue. And it wasn't until one day somebody said, hey, we get up at 5 a.m. to get here. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I feel like, sorry for the super long story, but I feel like they're even showing that side of things, how like it's easy when you start to get away from difficult situations to forget like what other people are going through. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
here's the thing, right? That's a very human and a very understandable mistake to make. And I feel like that's like the show is like a tragedy of errors because aside from a few specific like villainous actions, most people are just trying to do more or less the best that they know how. Mm-hmm. And they're not perfect. And even people like Heimerdinger just make mistakes not because of a character flaw or, selfishness or something, but just because they don't know better.
Yeah, ignorance almost.
Even with Powder, like she was just trying to save people. She didn't, when she made that huge screw up, she didn't know. Well, maybe she shouldn't have put 3 of those little pebbles in her little bomb. But
no, she only had
I
one.
think one would have been.
She only had one.
No, she had 2 inside the can, and then one between the clapper.
Yeah.
Wait, I thought it was only one on the clapper, and it was just a little.
It was loaded down with those pebbles.
She tossed 2 inside of it as well.
Oh, no wonder it blew up so hard.
Oh,
wow.
yeah.
I didn't realize.
Yeah.
That.
She. So other than that, that was probably I would say that's a stupid mistake. But
she's a child. She knows no better. Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, she's a child. But other than that, like, who wouldn't be like, my friends aren't back yet. I want to help. Let me go see if I can help. And then you show up and you look in the window and you see your sister fighting and they're cornered in a room.
Fighting a Hulk.
Like, yeah, I'm going to try to help. That was a reasonable thing to do, I think, in her situation.
Under the circumstances, for sure.
It just, screwed up.
Let's talk about the tragedy of Jace and Vi attacking the Shimmer facility.
Oh, I was thinking of that too.
Oh, yeah. That was a tragedy of.
Yeah, what did y'all think about that scene? That whole moment?
First, I thought it was kind of silly that this man goes from I'm a scientist to I'm about to break some heads.
Yo, that dude was so swole though. You seen him when he was in the factory?
When he was,
that man was.
Yeah, that's fair.
Why was he swole though?
I mean, being swole is one thing, but he was like, he had like fighting instincts.
But you saw what he was doing in the factory. This man was like bench pressing like straight up 900 pounds to get like the forge going. Yeah. I was like, yo,
that don't make you fast. That dude was fast.
He was fast. Hey,
he was fast. He was like dodging attacks and
stuff.
You
never know, man. He might have been dodging hot oil or something.
He's never had a spark land on him. He dodges all the sparks.
I use my killer instincts to dodge sparks.
Yeah, when we saw that scene with him in the forge, me and Kiyoshi were like, "Oh, no wonder she was into him."
Yes,
that's why.
Same. Like, she seen that body through that shirt. She was like, "Yo, I need me some Jace."
Tall drink of that.
But sorry,
but no, that whole situation was super tragic, despite the silliness. But I felt like, I don't know, I almost feel like it was played up to be more sad because of who died in the situation. Like, the possibility it seemed kind of unreasonable to me that, we had this prior scene where Silco's talking to all the higher ups in the Undercity, and then in this scene, one of their kids, there was 500 kids working in that mine, and there was one kid standing up there by himself, and it happened to be one of 5 people who were in that room's kids.
Well, I don't think the fact that it was one of those kids, like, I don't think the child of that woman is what made it matter. I think in the moment you're just like, oh, he killed a kid.
Yeah.
That definitely is what hit me, but I think it kind of sullied it that it happened to be that woman's kid.
Yeah.
And
it did.
Well,
my thinking was like, if you're one of the like, leader lords of this underground feudal system, why is your kid working in a sweatshop?
Well, check this out. Actually, it kind of makes sense. And I think they did a good job with this, because think about when they came into the factory, right? And all the people are standing around. Who's the kid that went and pressed the alarm? It was him. And who is the kid who's probably the most trying to be engaged and gets killed because he's too close to the fight? It's that kid. And I feel like, I'm inferring a lot of things. This is my personal opinion. that kid would probably do that because his mom is somebody and he wants to be like his mom. Right. And I'm pretty sure his mom put him in there so he'd know the ropes. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just feel like that's probably.
So he was running the place. That's why, or at least had some sort of.
He was the kid in charge.
Yeah. Like he was trying to be like his mom, like a big hitter. And that's my feeling at least.
Something happens.
But I feel you. You
press the button.
You know.
Granted, yeah, from his perspective, I could totally see why his character, which, we don't really see much of his motivation, but I can see why he would be there. But I don't know why his mom would let him be there or why Silco would want him to be there.
Yeah, holistically, it seems like a bad idea, but I understand.
Yeah.
They weren't making a lot of good decisions anyway, so maybe just fit the mold.
I guess it depends on, like, the labor. I kind of took it as, like, oh, it's child labor,
mm-hmm.
so why is a kid in the sweatshop? But maybe it was just easy labor, and it wasn't, like, really looked down upon.
Yes, I think it's like, like in certain places in the country, you use kids to transfer the dough, right? The drugs, the dope, because if they get caught with it, they're not going to get a long charge. They might go to juvie, they might get in lockup for a little bit, but they're kids, so you can't really do much.
They're just doing what they were told.
What they're told. Right. So there's a lot more leniency on a kid who's like 8 or 10 or 12. So that's
and they all were.
And and also you get a little bit of money in your pocket, for, moving the
gum,
for moving the,
for baseball.
Like, hey, I'll give you $20 to go give this to that guy over there. Oh, you want to get more? Just keep doing that every time. Come over here around 3:00 and I got you on $20. Yeah. Look,
Echo had a job.
Yeah. Everybody, look, you're a kid, you're down. I'll do it. I want to be like my dad.
I'm sure there were probably more kids working during the shimmer epidemic.
Yeah, they showed a lot of kids in that little factory.
It was tons.
That's what I was saying. I felt like it was probably like desperate kids who have to work. So that's why I was so like surprised that it was.
I can see what you're saying.
A high up
kid.
Like
why the high up kid? But unless they should have done a better job of like giving him like a different color shirt so he seems like he's the boss of the kids. So like,
or just show him before that moment or something. Yeah. It was just so little, like the payoff. I guess it to me, it just seemed like it was meant to be a bigger moment. Besides, Jace making his huge mistake, his first outing, starting a war, killing a child. All of that is like enough. So like the payoff of understanding that it's somebody, I don't know. To me, it just didn't hit.
Yeah, I felt like that was. They could have totally done without that detail. And as far as Jace is concerned, they did. Like he doesn't know or care whose child it is.
It was just a child. Yeah.
So I never connected the realization that it was her kid to like what happened. That's a weird.
And if you think about it from a narrative sense, I agree with you guys. The more I think about it, it was kind of a weak decision because they use that as an impetus for the dude with the metal jaw.
Right.
To kind of get girl to kind of rebel on Silco.
Betray.
Blah, blah, blah. But it wasn't what I thought it'd be used for is impetus to get the people in the Undercity to raise up.
Rebel.
Yeah.
But I guess the Undercity is so like, it's just another kid. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe that's what Lockjaw was going to do. I don't remember his conversation with Silco. Before he was...
It seemed like, was his name Lockjaw for real?
No, I don't know.
It seems like that's right though. Like, my name's Lockjaw.
His name was Finn.
Really?
I prefer Lockjaw.
You guys got to stay on these details, man. Why don't you?
I'm gonna call him Lockjaw. Lockjaw.
When did they say his name?
So much better. We just called a boy Lockjaw.
I think the fact that his name was Finn was so like goofy that it just stood out to me. The guy with the lower jaw made of gold is named Finn. I know a guy named Finn. That's hilarious.
He's like, yeah, just call me Chris. Like, what?
Yeah. This is like...
Silco's
He's
cool
like
name.
the leader of the Tokyo Drift division. Oh, yeah, that's Finn.
Finn. Oh. Yeah. I feel like... it's funny? Like, I was like, Shailene, like... Finn is my favorite character. I thought he was hilarious to me because he's so stupid. And he was. And he just, with his jaw, so he must have been missing the jaw, and he had all those tattoos, but he also was like, trying to be a big bad guy. But I was just like, Silco is not playing games. Like, when Silco came in, to me, a gangster moment of the show. When they closed the door.
When
he came into the meeting, right?
Gas.
And he just came in and he was like, let me remind you of what I've done for you. Yo, that was such a flex. That was such a flex. He's like, the gas is coming out. Number one, his lackey or whatever, what's her name again? The girl with the...
Savica.
She had to put a mask on.
She did.
But Silco was like, you know how raw I am? I'm in these streets. like to me, that was the flex. Like, most other villains would have had a mask on. But Silco's like, I'm about this life, cuz. Like,
this man's been holding his breath since Vander tried to drown him.
Like, I breathe this stuff every day. I am unshooketh. Look at you. You are gasping for air.
Yeah.
And I, like, standing above you, no mask. He took a little whiff, like, haha, like, I'm gonna take it just to clown on you. And he's like, I don't even need this.
Yeah.
I was like, yo, to me, that's where Silco became, like, top five gangster moments. That was to me.
Oh, so I have a question about Silco. Something else that I missed. His eye. Did they explain?
No. That, to me, this is why they're gonna have another series. There's so many things they never explain why his face was like that, or his eye, or what was going on with that at all.
I think he mentioned something that made me believe that what happened to his eye happened because of the attempted drowning.
Yes. He said
it's like something in the river there was like toxins or chemicals that basically screwed up his face.
Right. But that was it.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I remember that too.
I recall that too, but it's kind of weird that it was just that part of his face because his whole face was under the water.
Yeah, I mean, agreed.
And the little mechanism where he has to poke it, but that same green with
the shimmer,
purple goo comes out.
With the shimmer.
Yeah.
Yeah, to give...
No, it doesn't come out. I think he's
injecting shimmer?
He's injecting it into his eye.
To give him sight, so he can see.
Okay.
Yeah, so he can see.
I guess that makes more sense than...
That's why it hurt him so much when she was jabbing him all over his face and it was injecting shimmer into his face in random places.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
because if it was just a needle, he would have just, been fine.
It's so interesting because, like, to me, at the end, when they were at the table, it's like Vi, Silco. Oh, we haven't even talked about Caitlyn, which is a whole nother character that we need to discuss her. But, like, for some reason, in that moment, when Silco was at that table, I felt like Silco was not that he was, like, I felt like for the first time, he was really genuinely like, I care about this city and I care about my daughter and all of this is just a means to an end so that we can be free. Like, I gotta do what I gotta do for my people. This isn't I don't hate people. Like, and when he was sitting at the statue and he's thinking through all this stuff, like, this is real stuff for him. Like, this isn't just, I'm a calculated villain trying to take over the world. Like, he genuinely is like, I just want to be free. And
he met up with Jason, didn't try anything.
Yeah. Like, he's just a diplomat. Like, at the end of the day, he's just like, I'm going to do what I got to do for my people.
I don't think he's a diplomat. I think he's a businessman.
A businessman. A businessman is a better way to say it. He's a businessman and he sees it as a benefit. He says, do whatever has to do for business. Like, we're going to keep selling crack, but once we get this done, we're going to move on. Like, the only reason why we sell crack is so that we can have some power. And we're trying to master this. But, like, so I don't know. I felt like
lucrative.
Like, Silco, actually, his death was to me a little bit sadder than I thought it would be.
Oh, yeah.
Can I say this?
Yeah.
At that table, when I did not know what I wanted to happen. I did not know. I mean, talk about, it's one thing for a show to surprise you and be like, wow, I didn't expect that. It's another thing to be surprised because you just don't know what to expect and you don't know what you want. Like, I'm like, I don't really see a good way. Maybe there's like one path that could potentially be taken where there's peace and everyone comes out okay. But, like, not really. Even now, thinking back on it, I'm like, I don't really know how that could have gone differently, where no one died and everyone got what they wanted. Like, that was a tragedy, no matter what happened.
Yeah,
yeah, because even after that scene, it didn't help that was the last episode. There's only 5 minutes left of the episode, but I totally agree with that sentiment. it's like a resolution, like almost to the point where you don't want one. At least me, I was almost at the point where I didn't want one. But then when I didn't get one for a second, or probably the whole night, and I slept on it. But I was angry because there wasn't a resolution. But then the more I thought about it and like replayed the events to the story and stuff, like the more it made sense that they did what they did with that whole scene. And
yeah, in many ways, like I think Steve keeps saying it, like this story is just tragic, right? Like it's all these moments that could have went differently given one or two changes. And it all comes to this moment where this girl who's completely broken, who they need to open up mental health clinics in the Undercity because those people are broken. You know what I'm saying? Jinx was broken. She's seeing all her friends, her dead friends, and she can't, like, she's still inner voices. She's still a child in conflict with who she was as Powder, who she's become as Jinx, who she wants to be, her father's love, which was once Vander, now Silco. She lost her actual father, the love of her sister. Like, she's, like, so broken. And she doesn't know what to
kill.
Yeah, and she's willing to kill to do it. She doesn't even really know why after point.
She's cruel.
Yeah, she's just chaos, like you said, Kyle. And she's at this table now. She's at a moment where she's breaking. And she's actually looking for resolution from the people at that table. Like, she's looking for an answer because she doesn't know where to go. She's like, bye. You say you love me, but look at Caitlyn here. I seen you hugging her. I know your feelings, They clearly have a romantic, like, relationship now. At the end of the day, I'm gonna get replaced anyway. Right? She's looking at Silco. Silco, you say you love me, but this is about business. Like, you didn't choose me, more or less. I chose you. This is, like, convenient for you. Caitlyn, who are you?
Plus, she thinks he lied.
Yeah, and then you lied to me. So that means you don't really love me. Like, I don't know what to do. I should just kill all of you. I thought that was an option on the table. I kill all of you and keep it moving, and the whole chair, it was so beautifully made that her chair of Powder and Jinx, like she's literally not sure what to do. And Silco's action of picking up the gun and her making the decision, I care about Vi enough to kill my father. But she kind of realized that was the only person that loved her, and Vi's never going to come back to me in the way. I think I just got to become Jinx in order to survive. Like, to not implode. And then she went full Jinx, right?
Oh, yeah.
Then she got her weapon together, and I was like, yo, this is crazy. You know what I'm saying? What if Silco hadn't pulled the gun out? What would have happened? What would have been the conclusion?
I don't know, man.
I don't know.
I think she would have shot Caitlyn because Caitlyn was also making moves.
Oh, yeah. She had the turret. Oh, no. She had knocked her out already at that point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did she?
Yeah. Caitlyn was on the ground.
Because she had the gun pointed at her. And that's when Silco took the move to try to do something to kill Vi with the gun, right? Like, in all the chaos.
I thought multiple people got shot at that last standoff. Because it like jump cut it a whole lot, and his gun was smoking, so he shot at someone. But
I think he missed.
Yeah, had to.
Yeah, I think Vi was just. Man, Powder is a beast, or Jinx is a beast. Like when it comes down to it.
Yeah,
I had two favorite moments from the table scene. The first one was when she walked in and she brought the platter, and she was making this big old spill.
Done. So I was like, I know. Like, man, that was so well done. Well written.
It was.
Well orchestrated. They did such a great job.
Really
and then
did.
she even followed up, I'm not
What's in the box? What's in the box?
It was so good.
And the thing is, they did such a good job of showing the cruelty of her all the way through the show. And also that there's not a lot of plot armor for anybody. That like, I honestly was like, there's a very good chance that is Caitlyn. Maybe it's not her head, but maybe it's something. Like
her hand or something.
Or something.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, are they really going to put a severed head in this show? Like, is that where the show is right now?
The thing that
I really didn't know.
That's the crazy thing is that it seemed like they could, even though they hadn't done anything near on that level yet.
Yeah.
They had done some pretty vicious stuff. I mean, when somebody like cut somebody into pieces, and then the Marcus died on the bridge, and they kept showing his dead body over and over.
Oh, and his arm was gone.
Was gone. Like, there was some brutality. Like, it was definitely tasteful, but like,
I think a severed head.
And
they
killed a child. Though. And they killed a child. So it's like,
it was ramping up. Yeah, you're right.
Like, they killed him in a pretty awful way too. Got his chest caved in and then fell off a building. Pretty much.
Yeah.
And so didn't like immediately die. Like, he looked Jason in the face first.
Yeah. Golly.
Yeah.
Man, that was rough.
So you said there's 2 moments. Yeah, that one was raw.
And then that other girl, she got evaporated.
Oh, that was evaporated? Victor's girlfriend.
Oh, dude, I forgot about that. That was so sad.
That's like probably the cleanest death in the entire show.
Oh, man.
And she's barely even a character up to that point.
Oh.
But Keisha and I were just devastated.
We didn't feel that, bro.
That hurt so much. She loved Victor, and oh, man. And Victor...
How did they do that?
Man.
How did they make me care so much about this woman who barely was in the show? Barely mattered.
Subtleties, man. They did like what we talk about, like we were talking about in some other movies, where they don't tell you something, but it's like it just happens where you start to know, like, oh, she really cares about Victor. Right? She's like doing things like, oh, I'll do this for you, and da-da-da. And she's just a happy person. She only shows up, 5 times in the show? But like...
At most.
You know, and then you see, like, it's also because it's Victor in his moment of, like, he's
disparity.
In despair. So, like, that was just, man, it was, wow.
Yeah, if we didn't care about Victor as much, I don't think it would have hit his home as hard. Because Victor was also, he was making progress, but then he was having his fallbacks. Mm-hmm. And it was just, he needed somebody to pull him out of that.
And she was trying. She literally was trying to pull him out.
She literally was trying to pull him out. It's funny because it's, again, the tragedy of errors. Like, she shouldn't have run towards him to try to save him because he wouldn't have died, probably.
She didn't know.
He shouldn't have been doing any of that.
None of it.
That's not an error. That's a mistake.
Purple leg.
And it's just like, oh, what bad luck. Like, she was coming in. And again, the absolute, like, volume of screw up here is like, she came in this moment to express, it's the juxtaposition of, like, the best case scenario is she expresses her affection and they start a new project together and it's super cool. And it's like, finally the relationship starts because we kind of been, like, shipping them a little bit. But then, she gets dusted.
Not even, like, hurt, like, dust. No recovery. No.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Don't pass go.
The last thing you see of her is her face and, like, terror.
Oh, gosh.
And then you just see from far away, you just see her outline go away. You're like, oh my God, that was brutal.
It's crazy because, like, if you think about that moment, she was 100% justified to go save him because that random evil entity orb was trying to
anybody would
him.
do that.
She didn't know that what it was doing, or it was probably going to give him powers or something. But
right,
it was this worst case scenario.
I'll get to this in a second. Kyle was going to say his second favorite part of the table scene.
It can wait.
No, please,
because we're never going to come back.
Say your second part, and we'll come back to Steve.
Okay, so I think just the way that they built up to this moment was really cool. So you mentioned it, Brad, the 2 chairs, the Powder and Jinx chairs, and not only, like, visually how they represented Powder and Jinx. Powder's was like a little girl's chair. Jinx was this metal chair that she sat in at the end. Very sunken, oddly shaped. It was very representative. But then, like, when she walked in, she asked Vi which seat she should sit in. Yeah. And it was like, up to this point, Vi kept calling her Powder. And every so often, she would say, Powder's dead. I'm Jinx now. And there was, like, this back and forth that would kind of, like, subtly happen. And maybe it would send Jinx on a little tangent or whatever. But then, like, for it to culminate to this... She has a seat at the table. She puts it in Vi's hands, pretty much. Where should I sit? And then she doesn't have an answer. It's like, I was trying to think, what would you say? Because all this time you've seen that she's been trying to find her own identity in Jinx. You want her to still be Powder, but you lost those years. Like, no matter what you say, she could fly off the handle.
Exactly.
And if you tell her to be Powder, then she has to take responsibility for her, and she knows
she might not
that things are different now. That she can't be the doting sister, that she can't be the only.
Mm-hmm.
I don't quite understand the jealousy of Jinx for Caitlyn, because I'm like, they don't have the same relationship. But I guess the idea is that,
She was replaced.
Powder was the only girl, I guess, in Vi's life, but now there's someone else vying for her attention. If you will.
Nice. Yeah, I think you're like when you said like there's no right answer, because if you say Powder, you basically what Jinx, aka Powder, was saying in that scenario. If you select Powder, you need to get rid of Caitlyn. That's basically what she was saying to her, and Vi understood that. And if she says Jinx, that means that you're letting me go down the deep end, and I'm never coming back. You know what I'm saying? And like Vi was in such a weird situation where like she's been in jail for so long, and she's trying to start her life over. She finally finds Caitlyn. She's more or less falling in love with her, and she doesn't want to lose that because Jinx more or less isn't a part of her life anymore. But at the same time, she cares about her sister, and basically, like in many ways, like the real solution to a lot of this was that Jinx had to die because she was so far gone. Like there was nothing.
That would have been probably the cleanest.
Yeah,
solution.
Caitlyn even said that.
Yeah, like she's so far gone. Like what do you do now? Like you can't, either she's the chaos. You got to be with her every moment, and you got to keep fighting her from being Jinx because she's still gonna be Jinx. Like in this quote unquote Powder, she's like, Silco was trying to keep her together, but gosh,
it wasn't working.
He wasn't trying that hard either.
He was just using.
He was just using her for the benefit and just kind of.
Well, I think he just underestimated how
chaotic,
unhinged she was becoming.
Yeah. He's just like letting her do her thing. Yeah. So what were you going to say, Steve, a little bit earlier?
Yeah. I was going to say I don't really understand all of the nuances of what was going on with the hex core. So I'll explain what I do know, and you guys can maybe fill in some blanks. So he had built this device that, in his words, would be able to almost become intelligent and learn. Mm-hmm. And it had the ability to like do different kinds of magic. What's the word? Intelligently. Mm-hmm. And he was trying to use it to like, fix biological forms and eventually fix his own body. Mm-hmm. And then at one point, it comes into contact with his blood. He takes that to mean, it reacts to biological matter. Mm-hmm. But that was not how I took that scene. It looked like it was reacting to like some sort of sacrifice. Like,
yeah.
I think blood is usually attributed to like a sacrificial.
But he didn't see that happen, so he didn't. Yeah.
Well, he did. He remembered later that it was like sucking his blood, and it shows him having that flashback. And that was when he thought, biological matter, of course. And I was like, really? That's your takeaway? But the other thing that he didn't know is that during that moment, that was when Jace and Mel were sleeping together for the first time, like in a moment of passion. And it kept it kept not just flashing back and forth between him and the hex core and them in the bed, but literally like overlapping the two scenes. Mm-hmm. And it really seemed like the hex core was somehow reacting to that splintering of their relationship. It's like, all right, Jace is kind of going his own way, and he's kind of not just physically with a woman, but also like ideologically, like she kind of has his heart. She's kind of leading him, and he's not really with you, Victor, and he's not really like on the same page as you anymore. And it seemed like that was what the core was reacting to, even though he didn't know it and had no way of knowing that. I thought that's when I was like, this thing is sentient because it knows things, or it seemed like they were implying that it knew things that even Victor himself wasn't aware of at the time.
So I agree that I did see like that link too, but to me it was more along the lines of the magic was just so mysterious that they didn't understand it. And so maybe it was sentience, maybe it was something else. But the thing was, like, I don't think we ever found out who the magician was or who that saved Jace and his mom.
No, I don't think we did.
But then after that encounter, it seemed like, Jace was definitely obsessed with magic from that point. But that guy, he gave him a rock. And it was like, magic was a part of his life from then on. So maybe there was a deeper connection to magic that was also causing the hex cube to distort and stuff.
So
Yeah.
I think I have a very different interpretation of those moments in general. I think it was very much a cinematography thing because they had done many different moments like that before where they were showing the juxtaposition between people's decisions, like what they were deciding to do, like them being different but the same. Like, and I just more saw it as like Jace is going this path, Victor is going this path. And I don't think the magic had anything to do with that. Like, I just think like if you think back to some other scenes that happened, maybe they'd show like, I'm trying to think back to another moment. Like they might show something that Vi is doing and something that Powder's doing simultaneously. Like they had many moments like this where they're like, there'd be
parallels.
like it'd be like a very
Yeah.
music driven moment where it's showing two people making a very important decision that's going to set the course of things. And if you think about the moments that led up to that, Victor was kind of feeling that Jace was like giving him the cold shoulder, like, hey, like we said we were going to do this for the benefit of people, but you're all in this politics and all this stuff. Like we need to think about that. No. We should do da 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 da. Have you seen what the Undercity people are doing? And he's like, bro, I'm from the Undercity. So you started to see their their relationship dividing. Mm-hmm. And the Hex Cube, from what I recall him talking about in general, that whole setup was just because in general for them to invoke a certain like magic spell, they had to basically manually go through and write the runes out and put them in the position. But he basically found a way to try a lot of different variations of runes to try to invoke magic. Like it was more of like a mechanism to like get different options. You know what I'm saying? Like it was like configurations of magic. He was
hacking magic.
That's not really true. Even the very first spell they did, it was with a device that allowed him to attach different, put different runes together.
But think about them.
He specifically said that he was inspired by the fact that mages would say that the magic spoke through them. And he's like, I want to make something that's like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but he was also mentioning like there's so many different like runes and different things and we don't know because they kind of already knew what set of runes would do a thing. Like if you think about that first experiment when they're in the room, like Jace had already figured out the pattern. Like these runes, mm-hmm. these runes. And then that little machine, the little dial was just changing between the different runes at different times, right? And he was tapping into that moment where he saw the guy do all those motions. And that little hex was kind of just like a different way of doing the same thing. That's why he was super frustrated when he was like trying different things and nothing is working. Like, why are none of these patterns working to do what I wanted to do, right? So it's...
I mean, yeah, that's frustrating. I do think that you're missing out on some aspect of the core though, because it was definitely focusing on like, it's intelligent, it does things on its own. I'm not saying it, I'm not trying to like extrapolate more than that and say, oh, it was sentient and it's evil. I'm just saying that's what he said.
Yeah, I mean, I maybe don't recall that, so, maybe it's just misremembering. But also, like, I think just in general, like, I think if you think about like the mages in general, like when Heimerdinger was talking about them, he was just saying like how they like are kind of like power hungry and da da da. Like I think fundamentally, like you said, they misunderstand what this magic is, and that they're not just tapping into energy, right? They're tapping into something that has a motivation, Yeah. And it was very clear, right? Like the moment that Victor kind of like rejected the thing,
his own conviction.
He said no.
Oh,
the core. The core was like, oh, like we made a blood bond here, and you reject me, I reject you. And it took the power from him, and he was
so back to Lincoln. That's actually why I brought this up. We got distracted a little. I was gonna say that at some point it felt like it was giving him powers, and then when it killed that girl, it seemed like it also almost out of spite
weakened him,
took away his powers. And I'm like, did he reject it? I feel like it didn't
take his power because he killed the girl. It took his power because he was trying to destroy it.
Break it.
And fundamentally, I think what was proven through the process is that the magic is it has to have some type of life force sacrifice, some type of high energy sacrifice. Those little crystals, the blue ones, remember the magician in the snow used it, and then he couldn't use it anymore, right? All of his power is gone, right? And fundamentally, I think a magician probably has to use their own life force to like power it, which is their blood, right? And that's why like plants weren't very good, because it's just like you don't have much life force, so you just die when I get you. And I think what happened is when he touched a girl, he actually just took her life force and gave it to the thing. And
that's what I think too. She just happened to be a better battery
instead of his own life force.
Like,
and he had made the bond
all this time just to be a battery.
Yeah, because I think it was going to take something from him or something during that moment, but they were like, it was like, instead. I can, I want to make a bond with you, so it's probably better. And that's probably what other magicians did, just take people's lives to benefit themselves.
Maybe. Yeah. I will say that about the scene with the blood and the sex scene, I don't totally agree with you. I've seen that happen, and that's definitely a common trope, but the scenes weren't juxtaposed against each other. They were overlaid on top of each other, and it wasn't about Victor. It was specifically overlaying like these two sleeping together over like the inside of the hex core moving around and doing its thing. Meanwhile, Victor's passed out on the ground. So I feel like the focus wasn't on Victor at all.
I just want to say, and I'll say this in a very I think it was just more of a climax. And I don't mean that in, that way, but like in the sense that like it was just these two events that are completely monumental and are going to change the course of everything just happened. And it's just more of a cinematography. I mean, that's my opinion. And
that's possible.
And especially from how they just shot the series in general, they kind of did things like that. Okay. So I want to talk about two characters that we haven't talked about. One was Caitlyn.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Caitlyn, apparently she's a hero or champion in what's it called? In League of Legends.
League of Legends.
But Caitlyn was such a weird character to me. I just didn't know if I liked her. Like, I kept going back and forth. Like, okay, I like Caitlyn, but I kind of don't like Caitlyn. I don't like Caitlyn. You know what I'm saying? Like, it seemed like she had a good heart to me, but like, I don't know.
I think she was kind of written that way. Because, she wasn't particularly likable just because, like, her personality was she wasn't stubborn necessarily, but she was, like, very headstrong. And so, like, she was doing stuff and messing people over by doing her own thing, but it wasn't in like a charming way. It seemed like it was all very like in a very self-gratifying type of way. Like, I have something that I want to do, so I'm gonna go do it.
Yeah.
And like bad stuff wasn't happening, so we didn't think she was a villain. But at the same time, like, she was just kind of disrespectful. So it was like, well, this isn't helping anybody.
When she investigated that ship and she was taking pictures and she got, Jinx's logos and stuff. Mm-hmm. And then Marcus shows up and he's like, "You're not supposed to be here. You're supposed to, she even had another job she was supposed to be doing, right?" There was, I don't know, maybe there was like a history of things not getting done and she wanted things to get done. But yeah, it wasn't really shown to us that she was doing something for like good reasons. It just kind of felt like she was literally just, What did Marcus say? He described it as like, oh, those people, they'll just do what they want. It really felt like she just does what she wants.
And it's interesting because like it's juxtaposed with her kind of resenting her family being like these high-powered families who can do whatever they want, but she kind of acts like a child from that type of family, right? Like kind of selfish. What do you call it? Privileged, or whatever the word is.
Yeah,
entitled, and I get it, because the reason that she wanted to do that is because she wasn't even supposed to be on that security detail. Her mom forced them to put her there. She wants to do more interesting stuff. And her parents are kind of like blocking her from taking on more dangerous, assignments. So she's kind of like lashing out against that. But she also knows that she's not going to get in trouble. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
It's
because she was still part of law enforcement. And she had, their parents were really close to the council. And so it's like her story is like, it just so happened that she was on the right track and like met up with the heroes of the show. But she didn't necessarily do anything to earn a spot on the roster. I mean, she was good at shooting guns.
Yeah, she was very talented, for sure.
She was somewhat
She was
talented.
driven.
She was really talented at like two
She was
things.
very driven, that's for sure. Driven
she was
and wanted to
driven,
prove her family, I am capable. But you know what was weird to me? Like, I say this like in a weird way. It's like, I know Vi and Caitlyn were like the romantic couple, but to be honest, to me, like, it didn't really make sense. Like I get that they were in the Undercity together looking for her sister, and they fought some dangerous people, and like they kind of survived together, but it never really felt like
they kind of threw it together.
Yeah, like it didn't feel like another like you know, of course Caitlyn, you know, it was an interesting scene when they're in like that brothel, and she said, "Oh, you can act like, you know, you like a girl or a guy," and they were trying to show us like her, you know, what her interest was, and you know, so like Jace clearly like liked her, but she wasn't into it. You know what I'm saying? She's like, "No, like that's not my vibe." You know, in
that's
general.
what messed me up too. Yeah,
you know, but like it just felt really weak. And if anything, to me, I kind of felt like Vi was like, "Oh, this is the first woman I've seen, human."
Yeah, she's straight out of prison.
Shown me any, it could have been a man or a woman, in my opinion, for Vi, because who knows, whatever. But like, I just mean in general, in the sense that like, this is the first person who's shown me any kind of positive, you know, everybody's been bad to me.
Any human decency.
And it's like, I'm straight out of prison. And I don't, you know.
The last fool she dealt with was Milo.
Yeah. Oh Lord. You know, like who, you know, or like, and it just felt like, oh, you're a rebound from hopelessness. You know what I'm saying? Like not even, you know, and even if Vi was into women, I just feel like Caitlyn wasn't going to be a long-term relationship. It just really felt like you were the first person, you know, that I saw.
Right. Proximity.
Yeah. I definitely felt like that relationship rang hollow. They were together for what, like 2 days? They had known each other at that point?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess they almost died a couple, like Brad said, they almost died a couple times. So I know stuff like that will, like, you know, make people bond quicker. So maybe they were trying to play on that. But I think it was still rang hollow, like you said.
Yeah. I think it was just one of those moments where they're like, we need this to be meaningful. We need this to, you know, like, we need Vi to have to care. I mean, Vi was a good person in general, so I think she would cared about Caitlyn in general if she was going to kill her. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, she treated her well. It just felt like a weaker, just love story.
She wasn't as fleshed out, so that's another problem, is she wasn't one of like the main characters until near the end of the show.
You know.
And even then she was kind of like almost a plot device.
Yeah.
In a few times.
And then in you know, comparison is like Mel and Jace's relationship, which to me
that also surprised
me
a little bit.
At first,
it was more organic.
It felt more like okay, Caitlyn and Vi felt like the way that they were trying to put it was like, this is a love for a lifetime type of relationship kind of thing, right? So it kind of rang hollow. And I think the Mel and the Jace relationship to me was like, they were trying to get there, but in many ways, it kind of felt more like, hey, Jace, you're an attractive man and you benefit me. And I'm kind of like a single woman in this weird, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't, I don't know. It felt weird to me as well.
I felt like with Caitlyn, it was contrived by the writers, but with Jace and Mel, it was contrived by Mel.
By Mel, yeah. Like, and Jace was like, hey, you know, you fine, let's do this. But And I think she began, like, you could kind of see that there was some more deeper feelings, kind of, sort of. But I don't even feel like they were deeper in the sense that, oh, I care about Jace. But more that she started to feel bad about what she had kind of manipulated Jace to do.
Yeah.
And now it was, like, too late, you know? And when her mom showed up, first of all...
What a wild... She was only in there for one episode, right? Or was it...
Talk about sampling the local cuisine.
Bro, me and Shailene were sitting here like, I am not okay with this. Like...
Key didn't get it.
Oh my goodness.
She was like, oh, who's that guy? And I'm like, that's the local cuisine.
Yeah, like, they did a perfect... Like, it was perfect, though. It's like, it's exactly like when another show, like when a man does that. I was like, yo, they did a really good job of like showing the female perspective, or the woman's perspective. If she were to be a manipulator and a manizer, Man,
Did she have to be so big though?
She was swole.
She was
She
swole.
was-
She
Yeah.
was swole. She's a warrior. She's a warrior, so it made sense.
True.
She's, from a character standpoint. And she was just, and when she got out the bath and she didn't even care, like she had no shame. And she was just like, I'm going to get what I want and I'm going to do what I want. And you ain't going to do nothing about it. And then she had that big swole dude with her. Like, I was like, all her people swole. I was like, this is the worst people to fight.
Yeah, for sure. Did you see how mad her prostitute was when Mel walked in and spilled the wine on
yeah.
his
He was
shirt?
like,
He looked like he was about to get up and strike her. I'm like, you better not.
He's like, you know what? I just got this white shirt from your mama.
I've only been wearing it a third of the time.
And that man was so slender and soft and like, I was like, yo.
You saw that man?
Yeah.
Yo, I was like, they really wrong for getting Mel's mom doing it. Like, she clearly is a terrible person. Like, she chose the softest side. You know what I'm saying? Like,
it was like her opposite.
Yeah. It's like,
she has a type for sure.
it was, I mean, her mom was like, and the interesting thing is like, I think it's interesting that her mom showed up when she did. And it really like made Mel realize, oh my goodness, I'm becoming like my mom. Like I'm becoming power hungry and I want to be different. Like she, you know, she had this whole mentality, and it was just too late, like Jace had already
in motion.
Yeah, things were in motion. Jace is pretty much empowered. He was the new Heimerdinger, like the big power player, even more powerful than Mel because she taught him everything. And he was like, well, I'll do what I got to do, So I mean,
pushed him to the top.
So, okay. So kind of, coming in here for Landon, I want to talk a little bit about Echo because Echo, like,
Is this coming in for Atlanta?
I don't know. I mean, we're here now. We'll see what happens. This is. I don't know. I'm happy with. Normally we end a little bit earlier because we have time constraints. But this show is great and there's a lot to talk about.
It really is.
We still haven't talked about the scientist who basically mentored and fathered Victor, Singed or whatever his name is, because he's a very interesting character to me. But I want to talk about Echo because I was waiting for him to show up. I figured that was Echo, like from the jump. The dude on the board, but I was like, I wonder if it'll be him. I wonder how he'll show up. I wonder what, but like Echo went from this little smiley kid to this like straight, I'm gonna bust your head. Like, I'm real now. Like you could see how harsh life had changed.
Grizzled.
Yeah, man. Like
strong, Michael B. Jordan, Black Panther.
I could see that.
Killmonger. Yeah. Strong Killmonger
with
vibes.
The hair especially.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the hair, yeah, you're right. But I just meant like grizzled and,
he's seen things.
And cynical. Maybe not evil like Killmonger.
Yeah, he's seen things and does, in many ways, it almost felt like his motivation wasn't like to fight the Piltover, but to fight Silco. Like, and all of that, right? Like, cause he attacked the ship when they showed up at the festival or whatever. And, he was always...
Benzo was like a father figure to him, wasn't he?
Yeah, Benzo, it was pretty much his dad.
I'm sure it was personal, but it really seemed focused on bettering the Undercity, and that meant getting rid of Silco. I don't think he was doing it just because of Benzo.
Well, we didn't really have years had passed, so part of me thinks that maybe it started as a revenge arc and then transitioned.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Because what do you call it? They're the firelights, or yeah.
Oh yeah,
yeah. What a lame.
It was based on the little bugs, right? Like the little firelight bugs.
Fireflies, yeah.
We call them firelights. No, they were called firelights.
Yeah, I mean,
exactly.
But like just seeing him and like basically he adopted like basically orphans, right? Like he was like the Peter Pan movie with the kids, like it was just a whole bunch of kids.
He was the new Vander,
and then like all the different creatures there and. Like
you say Peter Pan, they were legitimately flying around a tree.
They're flying around a tree and they're all kids. like I mean, I'm like, that seems like, what was that? Whatever island or whatever they lived on with Rufio. He was basically Rufio, if you think about it.
Oh yeah, Rufio.
Rufio. Man. Yeah. I wonder what they're hinting at with his relationship with Heimerdinger. Like, is he like I can't really figure out what they want to do with him. You know what I'm saying? Like, cause clearly he's on a level of intelligence as Jinx, but like he's like anti-Jinx almost, right? Like
yeah.
So and Heimerdinger would be a better,
I mean, Heimerdinger still is like a legitimate scientist, so he's probably just going to accelerate their technology and probably be one of the catalysts that finally transition them into whatever it means to be equals with the surface dwellers.
Into a first world state.
Yeah.
I mean, Heimerdinger, even though he's not part of the council anymore, he still got clout.
Yeah. I mean, he's Heimerdinger.
Yeah.
He's in the academy or whatever. And I mean, one thing we have not talked about is what is going to be the results of what Jinx did. Shooting.
I don't think there's any point in talking about it. It's a cliffhanger. We should just let it.
I mean, why not speculate?
There was a rocket going for the window.
Speculate.
I mean, some people are gonna die. Some people aren't. There's no way of knowing what the writers will do.
The main characters. So Jace and Mel are gonna live?
Definitely.
Maybe.
Definitely they're gonna live. Like, there's no doubt they're gonna live. Like, you don't build all of them. Like, they have a little bit of plot armor, They might be damaged.
Okay. What about Victor?
I think Victor lives. I think he survived. I think that crystal is going to, like, prolong his life. Even though, I think he's in a bond with it now that he can't really break,
Is Victor going to become a villain?
Maybe.
That's a good question.
I don't know. He seemed pretty intent on breaking it. He asked Jace to break it no matter the cost. So I feel like his heart is set already on doing good. I would be a little disappointed if all the council dies except for the main characters. I feel like that'd be kind of corny.
Well, maybe there's a chance that this moment will force Victor to use the magic to do something
to save everybody.
And basically give his soul up.
Victor snaps
to save Jace and Mel and everybody. And also Mel's mom is there right now with the crew of gangster swole people.
Oh yeah.
And Silco's gone, meaning there's a power vacuum down in the Undercity. Jinx is probably going to try to fill that, but she's the worst person to fill. So whatever the chance of them being sovereign is going to. What?
Savika was in Silco's office at the end, so maybe she'll try to.
She's going to become the new Silco from a diplomatic business standpoint. I think that makes sense.
I don't know,
because everybody liked her and she was loyal. She knew everybody. She was pretty much a part of every major mission.
Fight her.
She won't be the new Silco, but she'll probably be head of whatever is left.
Yeah, like she'll be.
Jinx is done. I think Jinx is going to tear up that organization.
I think Jinx is just going to become this chaotic, evil. Like
I think she's going to do that and tear up the organization.
She's going to kill people in the organization. She's going to kill people in the main city. She's going to kill people in the Firelights. I think Jinx is just going to become that Yujiro Hanma. If you watch Baki, she's going to just
she's going to be the Witch of the West.
Yeah, she just has no alignment. No alignment. Chaotic and evil. Chaotic.
Yeah.
What
if they did this earlier in the show, but what if they pulled where they show a perspective, but then they switch it at the last minute? Like when V was sitting in Benzo's shop waiting for the enforcers to come in.
Oh.
But then it flipped the script and it wasn't the enforcers that came in, but it was Vander and Benzo. So what if they did something like that where she shot at a place, but then it turns out she shot somewhere else or something, or missed.
It clearly showed them all through the window.
through the window with the rocket.
I know, but then also, I'm pretty sure.
What if the window?
I love the way he said, "I know."
I don't trust anything because I gotta go double check. All right, I'll double check this, but I'm pretty sure at the end of the episode, before they did the cut, when the people were walking towards the door, the outlines were of enforcers and not of Vander and Benzo. But then when the actual episode where they came through the door, it was them. I'm not 100%.
Well, it was a different door that the actual enforcers were walking towards.
That I'm not certain about either.
Yeah, I'm not certain about that.
I mean, I don't know if it was a different door, but there were real enforcers. It isn't like they just didn't exist.
Right, yeah, they were going somewhere, but they didn't come through the door that they were setting it up for us to expect.
Well, I don't think the door necessarily was a unique door that you knew. The enforcers are definitely knocking on the door.
I don't know.
definitely
I think it was just a generic
that
door.
rocket's going to hit the council. But I don't know on what level, like what it'll do per se. Like, I mean, it's a rocket and it's clear she knows what it does, that it explodes. And she clearly built that mechanism for that purpose. So
the glasses.
Talk about good aim. Can we talk about
Oh, yeah.
that? She launched this at a window from like across a river.
Yeah, she's a beast.
She accounted for that bullet drop. Like
sharpshooter. Yeah, she's been playing a lot of Fortnite, man. She knows what she's doing.
Wingman
she got the wingman skills. Got to send it on that. Yeah, I mean, I feel like the next chapter in this. So one thing that I'm really interested about, and we were talking about it, is just the magic that existed before Hextech, right? Like, clearly there's other people out there, right? There's other countries, there's other worlds, and they're having a different scenario. Number one, we know that Mel is going to have a conflict with her brother's killer, right? Mm-hmm. Because that's why her mom showed up. Like, yo, he's coming to kill, like, whatever. So we're going to see a ramping up of the militaristic side of everything, right? Piltover's about to change. And then the Undercity is about to change. I'm just interested to see if old school magic wielders are going to show up. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I bet.
Or even if one is among them, but hasn't shown themselves yet. Like a character that we might have already met might be a magic person, you know?
What if Heimerdinger is?
I don't think he uses magic.
He hasn't, but I mean,
he
did that one thing where he was with the little girl. He had the gears. And they played it off like it was a science trick.
Oh, yeah.
But he was doing that was street magic.
Yeah. I mean,
sleight of hand, I don't think.
Yeah, but it was like it was like 3 screws. And then all of a sudden it was something like Heimerdinger might be, low key might be a magician because he keeps saying, I was there. I know what's happening. We shouldn't mess with this. And he would even like walk in and be like, oh, I know what you're about to do. Think about it when he walked in that moment and he saw the hex cube. He knew something because he said, we need to destroy this now. You know what I'm saying? Like he knew something that Heimerdinger knows something. And I didn't think about it, Cal, but I think he may be a magician. You know?
He was wearing the cloak already when he was in the window.
You know?
You're halfway there, though.
You know, that would be crazy because it would make perfect sense because he's like a magician who's turned away from that completely because he's seen what it's done to his brothers and his family. And he built Piltover as the kind of like the, you know, I'm not going to be like them. Right. And he's in all ways, he's trying to fight, not doing magic, but he gave them a little bit of leeway because he kind of knew. He's like, okay, like even when they first showed it to him, the magic, he kind of was like, oh, okay, I'm kind of cool with this, but I'm not. You know, like he kind of knew that it wasn't like, but it's like he knows something about magic deeper. I think I'm with you, Kyle.
I don't think it's anything deeper than that people, well, maybe there's some level, I guess, what is the phrase? Some feature of magic that makes people more evil. But I think just on the face of it, it's that if you advance technology and power too quickly, you're going to end up with bad things happening. I think that was my takeaway, was just the very common wisdom that you shouldn't introduce a bunch of people to new technology that you can't take back, and it's going to be used for warfare for sure.
Yeah, the wrong stuff in the wrong hands.
Yeah.
Did we see any other of Heimerdinger's race in the city?
Yeah.
There was one in the, is it a brothel? No, what was it? Where V and Caitlin went. There was one,
It's Vi, dog. It's Vi.
Anyway, there was one in there wearing all leather.
Yeah,
no.
There was
was that him? I thought that was just one of those little goblin creatures. Like the
I couldn't tell. I mean, only the ears were poking out. So
I definitely saw at least one furry face.
I don't remember seeing one.
That wasn't.
It could have been one of the goblins because the goblin lady
the
ran the
ear,
place too,
and they have big ears. And he doesn't have. Well, I guess he has ears. Big.
He has furry. He has big furry
fluffy
ears.
ears.
She didn't have furry ears. She had
long, like
skinny.
His ears, they were furry. Yeah. So maybe that wasn't then. I don't know now.
I'm pretty sure I saw at least one in like the fair or the market or whatever in Piltover. Like there's a lot of different people.
Yeah, the reason I ask is because there's a chance that he is of a magical race. You know what I'm saying? Like, if he's the only one, then like he's like the only one for a reason. You know what I'm saying? Like he escaped, he survived. You know.
Did they ever say why he lived so long?
I think it's just a feature of his race, but no,
but we don't know.
say.
I mean, he could say that's a feature of his race, but he could honestly be surviving by magic.
Right, they didn't say. I'm just guessing.
A lot of unknowns.
Everyone
took it for granted that he lives a long time.
You know, I see his name right here as characters. I'm not going to click on it because I'm like, I click on it, and I know he's a champion.
The first thing is going to be like,
he is.
Heimerdinger is a magic wielder in League of Legends.
Pretty much every character except for Mel is a champion. Every character, Jace,
Victor,
Victor, Singed, which is a scientist, not Vander because he's dead, not Silco because he's dead. Echo, Heimerdinger, Caitlyn are all champions.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's more than I expected. I didn't think Victor would be a champion.
I thought he might be a champion once he started getting them little robo legs. I was like, this man's going to become like OP here in a second.
He was sprinting with that purple leg.
Yeah. The way he started, he's like, ooh.
With his
ooh. He's like, I've never been sprinting before. Like I was like, where is your endurance coming from? You must be mad winded, you know?
So yeah. Victor's mentor with that salamander Pokemon, man.
So
that's Singed.
Yeah, that was so that was
a sad story.
Yeah, like I can't really figure out what like Singed. So Singed is his name or something, right? And he seems to be like, because he said he used to be in the academy, right? I think he said that.
He said he was partners with Heimerdinger, I think.
Yeah. So him and Heimerdinger, there's a good chance that he knows something. Like, I feel like he knows, and he keeps surviving. Like, I thought he died in that scene
surprising.
when the explosion happened.
Oh, yeah. I thought he was totally dead.
But it seems like he's been trying to recreate the ability to, like, live forever or something. Because he's that salamander. He's just trying to iterate until he finds a way. Like, he has a goal. You know what I'm saying? Like, and
it's a goal that's separate from
exactly.
Silco because he was not with Silco in the in the present timeline. He was in a cave by himself doing his own research.
Yeah, back at the original cave, I think, right? Where
Victor
found him. And it just seems like he was like, I'll give you this stuff because it'll further my experiments to like get results, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I'll get access to things. Yeah, I have a feeling like his shimmer is like his goal at making synthetic magic. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
And I feel like him and Heimerdinger like worked together, and Heimerdinger cast him out because he knew what he was trying to do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think that gives more credence to why Heimerdinger is a mage.
But also Heimerdinger was right because that stuff's terrible.
Oh yeah. I mean, Singed is clearly evil. Like he does not care. He might not even be evil. He might just be truly neutral. Like, I don't care. Like what
he's just making this stuff. Man.
Yeah. The mutation must live.
But it's interesting because Silco's the reason that Victor basically made his way out of the Undercity, because he clearly like trained him and like helped him to like advance his skills. And probably
Silco? You mean Singed?
Yeah, Singed helped Victor to get out of the Undercity. And probably is how he got connected with Heimerdinger. Like Victor probably was like, hey, I know Singed, and he said
a letter of recommendation.
Mm-hmm. And he's like, oh, well, I'm going to take him on because I don't want him to be corrupted. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, man. I don't know. This show is, I'm super interested.
I'm curious about a character that I guess if they're going to, did they say if there's going to be a season 2? Like, is that confirmed?
I don't think it's confirmed, but yet. I'm pretty confident it's going to happen.
So I don't know if they ever said her name, but Marcus's daughter?
Oh, the redhead girl that they showed, the little girl?
Yeah. I'm wondering if she'll come back kind of like they have, where she's now back with a vengeance. Because they didn't say anything about her, but I think they had like this really interesting way of bringing back characters and stuff. So I'm curious about if they'll do that with her.
Yeah, and who is... I mean, I guess his wife isn't alive because it was just him and his daughter. But, I mean, whoever his wife was had super red hair because...
right.
She didn't get none of his features.
Nothing.
Like, and we're assuming, I guess, that's his actual physical biological daughter. But, yeah, I mean, I still don't really understand Marcus's motivation other than like, okay, he really wanted to jack up the, Vander and his people. And so he made a bad decision. And then I guess he was just, now he just had, Silka had blackmail on him, so he kind of couldn't escape. Is that like what y'all got from his overall?
I wasn't certain.
Yeah, I think so.
Cause
pretty much, he was a hot-headed guy. He thought he was, Silco manipulated him into making a deal that he thought would cut through the bureaucratic tape that this other lady had put down. And totally backfired. He became
the sheriff.
He became worse than the other lady who had kind of a peaceful relationship with Vander.
True, yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, she was like, I have a relationship with Vander, and then he has the chaotic relationship with Silco. Interesting. It was like always that dynamic to keep the peace. Yeah, it's kind of interesting that his death was on that bridge, and that bridge was kind of where like the battle between the Undercity and Piltover happened. It was like that bridge is kind of like a flash.
Symbolic.
Yeah, symbolic, like what it means. So many people died because of, she's so crazy. My goodness. Like and can we talk about how now like Jinx is like purely shimmered up. Like she's a problem.
Right.
Like on the highest level. Like,
I honestly didn't even care. I'm like, oh, she was already unnaturally gifted and skilled and insane.
That's true.
I don't think the shimmer just made her more of that. I don't think it's gonna like change anything about her.
I think it's just gonna make her strong, right?
They were gonna do what they needed to make her overpower anybody anyway. Because she was outmatched in all of her fights, but I mean, she had plot armor, the thickest plot armor I've seen in a while.
Yeah, I mean, she was crafty. She was crafty, fast, nimble. But yeah, now she can probably heal. I mean, she got special experiment from Singe. Singe was like, yo, I'm finna do stuff that you're not gonna like, so I'm about to chloroform you. Like, he was like, I need to chloroform Silco, because if Silco's awake, I'm not gonna be able to do. That was my favorite part. I was like, oh, like he immediately syringed Silco.
He did.
He's like, I'm gonna pimp your ride,
but I need you not to be there. Please don't take out. That's my favorite hubcap. No, bro. He's like, nah, you gotta
into the furnace.
Yeah, man. I think next season. I mean, they've done all of the character development. They've done all of the the necessary things. So now they're cooking with gas, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's all world building and conflict. Like there's not really much more that they need.
Speaking of conflict, we kind of talked about it a little bit, but the action sequences in this show were incredible.
I told you guys. They were so well done.
I don't remember you telling me, but I appreciate you telling me because now I've watched it and it was incredible.
That was my first impression of the first episode, was that the fight scene was really well done, and then every fight scene after that was incredible.
It's just so punchy.
Yeah, it felt very video gamey. Like if anything felt like a video game, it's like like just how they moved and their speed and their the shooting and like the camera, how they managed the camera when like she's shooting her Gatling gun, like just the angle that they took, like and then like Echo and the guys on their like little cart on their little boards.
Oh man,
that was so crazy.
Yeah, it all looked really good.
They legit had to choreograph that stuff, but you could tell that they were in their element in every one of those scenes. Because at least I never got lost, and I feel like that's very easy to do, especially when you have 25 characters flying around.
Yeah, Yeah, they did a great job. I mean, honestly, like, of the Netflix shows that I've seen in a while, this definitely, like, I think this would be like, you know, I love Cobra Kai because Cobra Kai is stupid and I love it. But if you haven't seen Cobra Kai, Kyle, go ahead and start watching that, you know, if you still have access to my Netflix. But like, yeah, like this
I do still have access.
He's like, I'm deleting all the profiles. Yeah, I feel like this show really, this show is kind of like solidifying the video game Netflix, you know, era, right? Like, if you give it to Netflix to produce it, and they, you know, it can be good, it can be great, it can be even great, you know. So, so yeah, I'm looking forward to. I saw they have a Dota series. It looked kind of not interesting to me.
Really, another MOBA gets a show?
Yeah, that one. My brother-in-law was watching it when I was visiting them this past weekend, and I was like, okay, I'll go back and watch it. It was a lot of like exposition talking.
Oh gosh,
you know. But I don't know Dota. I know Dota less than I know League of Legends. So, yeah, I might start watching it. I don't know. It just didn't give me the vibe that I wanted. Yeah.
To me, that was the best part about watching this show, is that, yeah, I hadn't played the game in years, and even what little I did know was irrelevant. Mrs. Yams watched it with me. She didn't know anything about it, except for, well, actually, she actually saw me play it a couple of times in college, but I mean, that's, you know, 10 years ago now, and we both just enjoyed the show regardless. Like, I could recommend this to anybody. And
yeah,
I don't care if they like games, it doesn't matter. Even if they don't like animated movies, I think I could still recommend this to them just because it's so good.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's just one of those shows. It was just well done. I don't think you need any. You don't need any.
High quality.
You don't need any. What you call it? Back
qualifiers.
So cool, guys. I mean, honestly, I don't know what else to talk about this. You know, we talked about almost every single possible character in the show. I mean, there's some scenes that we didn't cover, but I think we've covered, like, we hit it.
I think we've done enough.
You've done enough.
You've done enough. Well done. That'll do, pig. That'll do. So, yeah, before we wrap up, ask you guys, as I always do, any last things you guys want to say before we go?
If you listen to this whole podcast and haven't watched it, hopefully we convinced you to watch it. But hopefully, you watched it before listening, because it's worth experiencing for yourself.
Woe on you.
Whoa.
All the woes.
Last words. Oh, I thought it was really silly that they leaned so heavily on Imagine Dragons. I
forgot about
Sting,
that. Yeah. I straight blocked that out of my mind. I said, Imagine Dragons was like, hey, we want to be in a video game series. Do it.
Oh, they put them in. They made 3D models for them to be in the show for 5 seconds.
For 5 seconds. If anything, that was like the most immersion breaking, like.
Oh gosh!
It was an in-episode music video. I was like completely
destroyed.
It was supposed to be like an epic moment, and I was like, "This is so corny." And it's the same song as the opening song, which isn't even original to this show. It's just one of their album songs.
Really?
I bet you, I bet you in the contract for them to use the music, there was some kind of clause that we have to perform our song in some capacity within the series. And they were like, what's the best, like, inoffensive way we can do this? Like, let's do it in
it wasn't.
In a tent.
Absolutely was not worth it.
In the Undercity. Yeah. Like,
the other immersion breaking thing for me was like the introduction of Echo with like the rap, like, that one like hip hop song, and then they had a completely different art style for like 2 minutes or something. Like, what is going on?
Oh, was that when
they really introduced it? And it was the episode introducing the Firelights properly.
Yeah,
like,
I
after
do
remember
you'd
seen
that.
It already.
Oh yeah, the weird commercial.
Yeah, that was definitely strange. It kind of, those 2 moments I kind of like just struck
blocked
from
out.
like the Echo one was probably less egregious but unnecessary.
It was less egregious. At least the music was good.
I forgot about it until you mentioned it.
Now I want to go back and watch it again because I literally am like, that did happen, but I don't remember.
It was probably not.
Because now
those are my final words. Oh,
you made me think. I'm just going to say this real quick. Is that now the bridge scene makes more sense with the art style they used, because I think it was similar to that commercial.
Oh, yeah. Hey man, that was so fire. That was.
I wasn't going to.
I forgot about that. You shouldn't have brought it up. That little scene where they showed them as kids.
Yes.
Was so cool. I was like, yo, this is so legit. It's like they're kids again and they're out here. Like, it's a real fight, but for them, it's the same. Like, I'm going to beat you. Mm-hmm. Like, and that to me showed that him, Echo, and, what's her name?
Jinx.
And Jinx are like the two, like they're the top. Like they're like the only person who can really beat Jinx is Echo. That's kind of what I feel, because I feel like that was just showing like we're both like really, really talented, really, really driven and care. And I feel like that it's like that's going to be the next season. That might be the main conflict. It's like Echo, who's now hyped up with Heimerdinger magic and technology, versus shimmered up Jinx. But yeah, that scene was really cool. I really liked that. I was afraid that Echo was gonna die. Real talk. I was like, no, Echo's gonna die.
Oh, the explosion, bro.
Yeah. I thought he died. Yeah. I'm glad he didn't.
The fact they didn't show his body, I was like, okay, he's alive. You know.
I almost thought that, because I think that was like episode 8. So I almost thought that the show was gonna do it and just legitimately kill them both, and then do something completely out of the ordinary to end it off.
That would have been cool. That would have been like, I mean, it's I feel like from a writers and like producer, like they're like, you cannot do that. You can't kill Jinx at least. Like,
she's in Fortnite. We can't do it.
No, we can't do that. I felt like Echo, I thought was going to die. But once they didn't show his body, I was like, okay, he's alive somewhere. And then once they showed Heimerdinger walking around, I was like, okay, he's going to encounter him. I just had to like...
Oh, you put all that together.
Yeah, there's some story beats that are pretty like predictable, but the show overall was like pretty strong with the, you know, like, I mean, the dinner table scene, like you said, I was like, bro, I don't know what's about to go down. Yeah, man, I mean, I don't really have much more to add. I mean, honestly, like, it's such a great show. I really, really, really want them to do like a Arcane series further in the past that's more around like the magician world. Like, I love that, like, just the mystery behind that. Like, that whole scene with Jace, to me, was super cool. Like, wandering magicians, what's that all about? What's the old magic? You know what I'm saying? Like, stuff like that. So I hope they do a separate series, like, or something.
Arcane spinoffs.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. As long as they don't try to make it League of Legends heavy, I think they can do well with this universe. Just kind of work in the world, but not try to tie it back to the game, you know. Don't have a Doom scene with The Rock, please. You know, all of a sudden they have a MOBA fight like in the game, in the show. I'd be like, I'm done. Turn it off. Delete this. So, anyway.
My abilities are on cooldown.
They're cooldown. They ganked me. But anyway, hey, I'm looking forward to the Pokemon Arcane series, the MOBA series of that. Because that's...
Pokemon Unite.
Pokemon Unite. They'll call it Pokemon. Anyway.
Oh my god.
Cocaine.
What were you thinking?
I did Pokemon because Pokemon is a popular Twitch streamer.
She'll voice act Pikachu.
Oh no. It would work though. It would work. She has that voice. It would
true.
Work. It would work. But anyway, hey man, if you have listened to this 2.5+ hour episode,
you the realist.
You the realist. I mean, Arcane is the realist. This show was awesome. There's so much to talk about. Thank you guys for talking about it. So once again, thank you, Kyle.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you, Steve.
No, this is Patrick.
Thank you, Patrick. I appreciate your alter jinx. What is it? Patrick or Steve or Glasses Steve? This man has all. Which chair are you gonna sit in?
What hat will I wear?
But no,
stand over there.
But really, appreciate you guys listening. I mean, of course, we enjoyed our time, and we hope that you enjoyed it as well. Super Agile Bros Nation, we always appreciate you. We love you guys. Thank you. We love you, ladies, guys, children, men, boys, everybody out there. Thank you so much for being part of our family. And, look out for stuff that we're going to be doing. Discord coming soon. Apple Podcasts, we out there in the streets. And, of course, follow us on Twitter at the SAB Podcast. Please, we're always dropping them hot memes and hot takes. So holla at us. So anyway, thank you so much for watching this episode of Super Agile Bros, for listening to this episode of Super Agile Bros. And until next time, peace.